It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake. Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to round number 11 of the PSGL PC F1 season. It's a massive night tonight, a night where Jarno Opmeer could be crowned the champion once again. He has to outscore Barry Bruman by 11 points to do so tonight. We've arrived at the Circuit of the Americas here in Kota, a place where another GOAT, Lewis Hamilton, has won a title or two here in the past, Dan, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of his favourite circuits, and it could be a favourite circuit of a Mr. Jarno Opmeer. Really excited to see how these guys can get along. We could see our season 30 champion be crowned today, and I'm really excited to see how all 20 of our drivers on our grid are going to compete today.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's take a look at those driver standings going into tonight's race, round 11 of the season. Jarno Opmeer then has a 40-point gap over Barry Burman going into this one tonight. There are 68 points available going into this race tonight, a 40-point gap, and after tonight there will only be 51 points available. And with that 40-point gap, if he can outscore by 11 and get above that 51-point gap threshold, he will be the champion tonight. So he's on 109. Barry Burman is on 69. Jake Benham still in the hunt with 63 points. Shanaka Clay is P4 with 51, followed by his Williams teammate Alvaro Caraton on 42. Daniel Beresney is on 38. Wilson Hughes is on 35. Nicholas Longay on 28. Yoni Tormla on 26. And last week's race winner, Brendan Lee, on 26 as well. And Dan, let's take a look at the results from last time out. A commanding victory, a return to form for Brendan Lee.
Yeah, it was a really impressive result for Brendan Lee, and he took it by storm in that race, clearing Barry Burman by quite some distance. It was actually 9 seconds on circuit, but of course a 5-second penalty applied from France puts it down to 4 seconds, but still a commanding victory for Brendan Lee, and the two McLarens joined him on the podium.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I mean, we could arguably say a little bit surprising. I mean, you know, Brendan Lee, he is a two-time champion in esports, just like Jarno Opmeer. But we've not seen this kind of form from Brendan for such a long time, whether that be in esports or since he's returned to league racing this season. But that was like the Brendan Lee of old, wasn't it? I mean, such a commanding victory. And yeah, it's actually quite exciting. Are we going to see more from Brendan Lee and taking it to the likes of Jarno Opmeer far more often in the races to come and in esports in the future, Dan?
I mean, it'd be a lovely sort of cinema story for Brendan Lee, you know, being this amazing driver in the first two seasons and getting a little bit quieter in season 3 and 4 of F1 Esports, and then coming back onto the scene in season 5 or whenever this season is, season 22, and really having that comeback story, you know, he's sort of the main protagonist of F1 Esports, you could say. Really excited to see what Brendan Lee could do, and hopefully this isn't the last we're going to see of him.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff from Brendan Lee, getting that victory last time out. I wonder how he's going to go in the races to come. Just a quick reminder, folks, before we jump into the qualifying session of the updated calendar. Of course, Brendan Lee winning in Singapore last time out. We're in Austin, Texas tonight, and we've got 3 rounds to go after this one. Next week we go to Brazil, and it would be the 4th of May we go to Brazil. Then we go to Monza on the 11th of May and wrap it up on the 18th of May. My birthday, no less, for the Bahrain Grand Prix to wrap things up. But enough about my birthday. I think it's time to jump into this qualifying session. And we've got a few cars heading out on the track as we speak here in Texas. And what a circuit this is. One of the modern classics. One of the ones I think Herman Tilke should maybe be proud of, Dan. Quite a good circuit.
Absolutely. I think this is definitely one of his finest works, and we had a hellacious battle all the way back in season 28. If I'm not mistaken, that was the last time that we headed to the United States of America in PSGL. And as expected, most drivers are out on the sets of the intermediate compound of tyre. So it'll be lovely to see how we can see some drifting. I'm watching Jake Benham. He's properly going for it with these drifts around the circuit. And oh dear, he spun it.
And he's drifted just a little bit too much. Not quite Ken Block, I'm afraid, Jake Benham. And he goes for a spin on this occasion. But we have got a few drivers out there starting flying laps already. And thankfully, some of them out there on the dry tyres. So we can keep an eye on Samuel Bean as he heads out there on a brand new set of the medium compound. And can take us around this wonderful circuit here in Texas. A very wide racetrack, plenty of opportunity for drivers to go side by side. And Dan, plenty of overtaking chances up at turn 1 in that uphill climb. You can brake really late because the steep hill helps you to slow down. And down into this corner here, a section of the track where you can battle and jostle side by side for a number of corners.
I really do love this circuit, and yeah, it really does promote some great battling. Especially you could even try and make some dive bomb moves into what I believe was just turn number 15 that Samuel Bean has gone through. Then we've got the famous Verstappen corner. Of course, Verstappen was able to overtake Kimi Räikkönen in 2017, and then was awkwardly escorted out of the podium room and in towards a final corner for Samuel Bean. Time and Shooters just put in a time of 32.2, and Samuel Bean is going to be 2 tenths shy of that.
And here's another man out there early on the medium tyres. Nice to see some of the drivers not hanging around and getting straight out there on the dry compound. And it is Danny Berezny, the Hungarian driver, one of 2 Hungarians, I believe, in the field. Patrick Saipos the other, as Danny Berezny makes his way through that middle section of the track from turn 13 through to turn number 16, through 15 and 16 now, and then through this. And I think Herman Tilke's taken this from Turkey. It's a reverse turn 8 at Turkey almost, isn't it? Not quite as majestic and as exciting as the corner at Turkey, but it certainly feels like it's one of the corners he's tried to replicate. And I actually feel this COTA circuit is a racetrack that tries to replicate many previous circuits. I mean, you could argue that this uphill climb to turn 1 is similar to that of the Austrian first corner, isn't it, Dan? You could argue that. And then the SE section through the first sector, very much like Silverstone. So many corners on this track, like many of the other tracks on the Formula 1 calendar.
It really does collate everything together quite nicely, and I think it works really well. There's other iterations of circuits where it's just been snippets from other tracks, and it hasn't really worked out. But I think that COTA does flow very well. Of course, all 5.51 kilometers of it. It's a very long circuit, so we're going to see, I think, 28 laps around here. So it's going to be a pretty long haul for these drivers, but I do think that they're going to have a fun time of it.
Yep, should be an absolute cracker. And from one Hungarian driver who's just gone quick as Danny Berezny to another, Patrick Saipos in the Alpine out there at the minute. Danny Berezny 2 tenths quicker than Simon Shooter on his opening run on the medium tyres. 3 times on the medium so far, Danny, Simon and Samuel Bean. Jarno Opmeer 1 minute 45.5 on the intermediate. Hardly surprising given he's on a tyre used predominantly in the wet conditions. But Patrick Saipos pushing on. Mathias van Erven shouldn't be in his way too much. He gets well out of the way and allows Saipos to go attacking around this wonderful circuit here at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And you know, I tell you what, it's one of the ones I'd like to go to. Never been, would love to go. I know Daniel Ricciardo loves it here. He starts speaking in an American Texan accent every time he turns up here, Dan, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, everyone really does love this circuit, and certainly I'd like to visit here one day if I ever make up the money. And even this time of the year, It's actually really nice to come here. I believe it gets to an average high of around about 27 degrees in April, that is. I believe it's been about 15 where I am in England, and probably a lot colder up north for you in Scotland. So I think
Yes, yes.
both of us are due a holiday here.
Yeah, don't rub it in, Dan. It's very cold up here as Louis Welch makes his way around the final corner, heads to the line, and the Padman goes quickest by more than a second, albeit on the soft compound tyre. Louis Welch, my favourite driver on the grid. I'm going to be honest, he is my favourite. I love the Padman, defying the odds every single week. Goes quickest by 1.1, but of course that was on the soft tyre. Only one other man on a hot lap at the minute. Oh, spoke too soon. As Alessio Di Capo comes into the pits to end that lap, and that leaves everyone except Louis Welch, who's just done his lap, and Patrick Saipos, who is also on track at the minute. But both those drivers are returning to the pits, but thankfully Dario Yumulo has gone out there on a set of the soft compound tyre in his Haas. So let's see what he can do. 7 times on the board so far, 5 of them on dry tyres. Jarno Opmeer and Matthias Van Erven did their time on inters, as you can see now on the left hand side of your screen. So then, Dan, Jarno Opmeer bidding for this championship. He saw his, 5-race win streak come to an end last week at the hands of Brendan Lee. Can he go on and make it 6 and win the title tonight? He needs to outscore Barry Bruneman by 11 points, which would mean winning the race with the fastest lap, and hoping that Barry Bruneman isn't in the top 5. So quite a tall order for Jarno Opmeer tonight to win the title. We might have to wait another week. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, it's going to be certainly difficult around here for Jarno Opmeer with such a close grid. And last time we came here as well, he wasn't the most dominant driver. That award went to Alvaro Carreton, who took both pole and the race win all the way back in season 28. Not even on the F1 2021 game. It's almost been a year now since the incarnation of PSGL PC, and I think for these past 2 and a bit seasons, it's been a really lovely test for all of these drivers. And yeah, it's very nice to be here today, Andy.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. As Dario Yumulo is about to get us underway on the second runs with 8.5 minutes to go in Q1. Well, the first proper runs for the majority of the drivers on the dry compound tyre. And here he goes, up the hill towards turn 1. Massive uphill climb, brake very late, use the steep climb up the hill to brake that little bit later, and then sweep down the hill through turn 2, absolutely flat out, and then slingshot the car into the S's like section. It's like Maggots and Beckett's as you race through left, right, swing to the right hand side, and then opens up this left-hander. Now blind uphill right-hander, you can barely see over the crest, swing downhill through the left-hander. Don't track extend too much as you might get a time penalty as Yumulo makes his way down to the bottom of the racetrack, the lowest point on the circuit for the hairpin. You often see dive bombs there, but often drivers decide to set this one up, open up the DRS through the DRS zone, and then blast down this long back straight over 200 miles an hour in 8th gear, spot the braking point, find it now between 150 and 100 metres, swing into the left-hander, and Dario Yumulo running a little bit wide, but just about holding it all together. Now through turns 13 through to 16, 2 right-handers and then 2 slight lefts. First one slight, second one very, very tight. Get on the throttle as soon as you can. Swing the car out to the left-hand side. Now through this long, neck-busting right-hander for Dario Yumulo. Get right over to the right-hand side. Open up the final, penultimate left-hander past Samuel Bean and into that final corner on the racetrack. Get on the throttle early again. Open the DRS up, cross the line. Go P2. 1 minute 30.889 for Dario Yumulo.
He got away with quite a few track extensions there, but he's been able to go second fastest, ever so slightly slower than Louis Welch. We've got some more drivers on the circuit at the moment and completing laps, one of them being Danny Berejnay, the Hungarian driver with a podium in his home Grand Prix this season. He goes to the top of the order by just shy of 0.3 of a second ahead of Louis Welch. We've got a Haas car coming up next of Matthias Van Erven, unfortunately invalid. Simon Shooter is going to be coming up towards the line in his Alfa Romeo and goes just 0.2 shy of Danny Berejnay. So all the lap times beginning to come out. There it is, the Dutchman, the man who can win the title today, goes to the top of the order, immediately pipped by his championship rival.
Yeah, Shanaka Clay then goes to the top of the timings. How is Nicholas Longue getting on out there? He's on the lap at the minute in the Red Bull, round the final corner. Shanaka Clay second now, and he now goes third, Nicholas Longue. Jarno Opmeer bumped down to 5th place at the close of play there. What about Brendan Lee, the man that ended the 5-race win streak last time out in Singapore? He's coming round the final corner and going P3 in behind Shanaka Clay and Barry Buneman, so good time from him. What about Wilson Hughes? He goes P7, a fraction slower than Jarno Opmeer. Daniele Haddad, he's crossed the line and gone P9. And we've got Jake Benham in the final couple of corners as well. Alessio Di Capua goes 10th, Jake Benham goes 5th and does a 1 minute 30.4. Who else we got in the final part of the lap? Samuel Bean, the Spaniard, is in the final part of the lap on the medium tyre, or on the soft. He was on the medium. Let's see what he can do now. Crossing the line, Samuel Bean only improves to P16. And not a particularly strong lap time from him. Matthias Van Erven, he has invalidated his latest run, so we won't be seeing a time from him. What about Patrick Saipos? He's in the penultimate corner. We've just seen his teammate go up to P16. Patrick Saipos will be looking to go quite a bit quicker than that as he rounds the final corner, goes P5, 1:30.458. So the initial run's done, and it's Barry Buneman on top with a 1:30.354. 45, sorry.
More importantly, though, we're seeing the bottom 5 beginning to take shape. We've got Dario Nuiello, Samuel Bean, Matthijs van Urban, Christoph Zeller and Liam Parnell all in the bottom 5. And it's been Zeller and Parnell not even able to get a lap on the board thus far. Matthijs van Urban's also invalidated both of his proper runs on a set of the soft compounder tyre. So those guys have got to gear up pretty soon. Otherwise, they'll see themselves out of qualifying. Christoph Zeller, he gets the memo. He is currently out on circuit for an outlap whilst everyone's pulling into the pit lane. And the Hungarian driver, he's going to have a nice clear track ahead of him, but he's only got 4 minutes just above that to get his lap in.
Louis Welch then, he started a flying lap, currently 15th. He was the first man to do a time on the soft tyre, which is why we saw him go 1.1 clear at the top before these runs began, and he's now been bumped right down the order, half a second off the pace of Barry Buneman. Half a second is enough to be on the bubble here in PSGL. Such is the closeness and competitive order of this field. We've got Jarno Opmeer a 10th.5 off Barry Buneman, and he's down in P8. That's just how tight it is here in PSGL. So what about the padman then, Louis Welsh, out there in the AlphaTauri as he looks to move up the order as that bottom 5, as you said, Dan, begins to take shape. We've got 3.5 minutes to go in this first part of qualifying, folks, and as always, we like to get people in the chat involved. So tell us, what do we think the cut-off time is going to be to get into the second part of qualifying? Dan, I'm going to cross to you. What are you going for?
When I say around about... See, I'm normally pretty accurate with these, but to be honest, I just guess most of the time. But I'm going to say around about where Haddad and Di Capua is going to be our cut-off time. If they're not above a midpoint 5, I'm saying that's when they're going to be eliminated. I'm seeing in the chat that everyone's saying it's going to be a 1 minute 30.65. That's from Zenvius. Richie says a 30.6. 30.5 from Toothless Entertainment. NW saying 30.6. So around that range is where everyone's saying the cutoff time will be, Andy. Around about a 0.5 or a 0.6. But certainly Christoph Zeller, without a time on the board at the moment, he is currently in the bottom 5. So any lap time for him is going to be good.
Well, around a 0.5, 0.6 is what you said. Louis Welsh delivers a 0.5. So a 1:30.5 for him. Let's see how Christoph Zeller gets on then as he makes his way through that middle part of the lap, gets on the throttle nice and early and powers down that back straight. Great to see so many people in the chat giving us a thoughts on what they think. So around a 5, a 0.5, 0.6, say many people. Let's see if it works out. Ben Price even believes we might dip into the 30.4s to get into the next part of qualifying. I'm sure a few drivers in this field will have their hearts skipping a beat at the thought of that, and they might be heading out. But let's see how Zeller gets on. Brendan Lee has retired. He believes that 1:30.4 from him should be enough to see himself through. So I wonder if it's going to be as quick as 30.4 or 30.5. Brendan Lee seems pretty confident with that time. Let's see how Christoph Zeller gets on as he makes his way round that final corner any moment now. Look at that, using as much curb as he can to open up that final turn. Crossing the line now, Zeller goes P13 with a 1:30.6. And I don't know, Dan, I don't think that'll be quick enough.
I don't think he's safe with that lap time. He might need to go for a back-to-back push lap here. His teammate Timon Shooter is currently on a run at the moment as well. He is in the drop zone, as is Louis Welch. and Louis Welch not on a push lap at the moment, so he's going to have one more run with it. But by the telemetry, it looks like he's low on fuel. We could lose Louis Welch at the end of this session. I believe the furthest up on their timed run at the moment in that lower echelon of the grid is Simon Shooter, and he's just coming through the long back straight here.
Yeah, Daryl Yumilo just a fraction in front of Simon Shooter, Dan. So we'll pick Yumilo up for the minute, and then we'll jump across to Simon Shooter as he does his lap. So Daryl Yumilo in the bottom 5 at the minute, absolutely needs a time to improve. And at the minute, as you saw in the top right-hand corner, folks, 2.5 tenths up, which would, a minute would be enough for the 30.6. So even if he does do a 30.6, I think he'll still be sweating as we wait for the time to tick to 0 and the checkered flag to fall. So what has Yumilo got in the final sector to drag an extra couple of tenths of a second out of the Haas car? Here we go then, into the final corner for Daryl Yumilo. Currently P17, needs to get out of the bottom 5 and does so. Goes P13. Now, what about Simon Shooter? He's in the final corner, but at the minute, struggling to improve and might be the first casualty here. Just about goes P13, gets ahead of Yumilo. Oh, this is going to be very, very close in the closing stages. Now, here's a man we did not expect to see in the bottom 5 at this stage. It's Alvaro Caraton, P17, the man 5th in the championship at the minute, under a lot of pressure, Dan, and that is a big surprise.
Yeah, Alvaro Caraton could be eliminated here. He's just crossing into the 3rd sector, and he once again is down on his previous best time. So Alvaro Caraton could be sent crashing out of qualifying here. Van Erven's just coming through the final corner now, currently in 19th position. We'll see where the Dutchman can see himself, and he's eliminated, unfortunately, in 17th position. Liam Parnell's coming up to the line. He sees himself into the next part of qualifying. Here comes Alvaro Caraton now through the final few corners. But Andy, you get the feeling that Alvaro Caraton, unless he can improve, he will be out of qualifying. That's across the line, eliminated.
That is a massive, massive shock. Caraton falls at the first hurdle here in the United States. That is a massive shock here in qualifying 1. Samuel Bean is out. He's gone 17th. The only man that can get through now is Alessio Di Capua. Can he knock Zella out? He can. He's already out. Can he knock Yumilo out? He can. Yumilo's not on another lap. We said he'd be sweating, and the reason to sweat is clear because he is now out of qualifying. The checkered flag has fallen. He's not on the lap, and right at the very end, Alessio Di Capua gets himself through, but there's no doubt about it. The big shock here in Q1 in PSGL, Alvaro Caraton on the back row of the grid, Dan. Wow.
Yeah, I think that back row in general is a huge surprise. Alvaro Caraton and Van Erven, both of them failing to get into the next part of qualifying and catastrophically starting 19th and 20th. Andy, I'm just going to tell you here, Alvaro Caraton last time we came here in season 28, he was on pole with a 1 minute 28.422. Wow. Granted, the cars were a lot quicker at that time, but from going to a pole position at this circuit to now being eliminated and 19th in Q1, something catastrophic must have happened on his runs.
Yeah, really, really disappointing for Alvaro Caraton here in the Circuit of the Americas tonight. He bows out at the first hurdle. Meanwhile, it's all smiles down at McLaren. It's a 1-2. Barry Burumand, top dog in Q1. He's followed through by Wilson Hughes, his McLaren teammate. Shanaka Clay third, with Brendan Lee through 4th, and Danny Beresney next in P5. Nicholas Longay was 6th, with Jake Benham 7th, Patrick Saipos 8th, and Thomas Ronhar 9th, and Jarno Opmeer, the man gunning for the title tonight, rounds out Q1 in P10. Alessio Di Capua, he got through late on in 11th. The Padman, Louis Welch, is through in 12th, as is Daniele Haddad, Liam Parnell, and Simon Shooter. The men out at the opening hurdle, Dario Yumilo, Christoph Zella, Samuel Bean, and 2 big surprises, particularly this man, Alvaro Caraton in 19th, and Matthias Van Erven down in P20. Well done. We touched on it there, didn't we? Massive shock, Alvaro Caraton. As you said, pole last time he came here. Tonight, it's an absolute disaster. What do you think happened? Just didn't get the lap together, or just struggling with the car on this track, with the setup?
I think with just how close this grid is, he must have made a small error somewhere, and that has completely cost him. You know, even though he was 19th and eliminated in Q1, he was still just under 4 tenths off of Barry Burman's time at the very sharp end of the order. So this grid is so close that the slightest mistake which costs you even just half a tenth or something could be the difference maker between finishing in the top 10 and being in the bottom 5. So Alvaro Caraton, he's going to be kicking himself about that one. Of course, we're not too sure what's happened on his run there. It might just genuinely be off the pace. But given his run of form in PSGL this season, being 5th in the standings, you get the feeling that he's made a mistake there.
Yeah, big shock, no doubt about it. Matthias Van Erven out as well, another big surprise. But I should mention, folks, for anyone in chat that went with a 1 minute 30.6, well done to you, because that was the cut-off time to get into the next part of qualifying, a 1:30.6. We'll see how it all pans out in Q2, Dan, because now the drivers have got to start in a tyre they qualify on, those in the top 10. Everyone from 11th down can pick any tyre they like. Who's impressed you in the first part of qualifying, Dan, so far? Both McLarens?
I've got to say, yeah, both McLarens. It's something you've come to expect from Barry Burman to be right at the top of the order in qualifying. He is especially strong over one lap, but I think Wilson Hughes, there's a slight bit of bias there, I will admit, but Wilson Hughes being in that second position and just 7,000 off of an established F1 esports giant and championship contender in PSGL of Barry Burman, to be standing on his level is a huge achievement.
Yeah, well, let's jump on board because we're getting underway for Q2. Here he is, Wilson Hughes, on an out lap at the minute in the McLaren, and it looks like he is sporting the soft compound tyre. Alessio Di Capua at the minute, the only driver on track with a set of mediums. Nicholas Longate is sitting in the pits also with a set of mediums at his disposal. Let's wait and see which tyres these drivers decide to qualify on. Will it be the alternate strategy, the medium tyre, or will it be the softs? We did see a lot of drivers, well, a few drivers run the medium tyre early on in the first part of qualifying, which is a bit surprising, but most of them went out on inters and then went on softs towards the end. So I would suspect the majority of them will try to qualify on the medium tyres. We might see a few invalidated laps here as we can watch Wilson Hughes then come round the final corner. My fellow Scotsman crossing the line now and starting a flying lap. Dan, are you expecting big things from him today? What do you think? Can he get on the front row?
You know what, why not? Let's call it pole early. I'm going to say Wilson Hughes on pole, because why the hell not? I mean, he's been fantastic in PSGL in recent weeks. Of course, winning the social race in Mexico that we had, I believe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So he really is in he's in fine form at the moment. And of course, was on the podium last week in Singapore. He really is improving at a massive rate, and hopefully he can carry this on over into USA. The 2-time PSGL PlayStation champion on F1 2020 is completing his run at the moment. He's just coming into the second sector down this long back straight, where I expect, Andy, we'll see a lot of overtakes.
Yeah, I think we will see plenty of overtakes on this part of the track. It's no doubt about it the best spot for it. Turn 1's an opportunity as well if you're late in the Grand Prix and going for a desperate dive. But yeah, no doubt about it. I'd say that's the prime place for an overtake. I'm just going to answer a question in the chat. It's always nice to inform our viewers who are unaware or new to the action here at PSGL. Marcelitis230 is asked, can someone explain why they use inters at the beginning? The reason they use intermediate tyres at the beginning is to save tyres. So the drivers, the quicker drivers that expect to get through with one run on the soft tyres, they go out for almost like an installation or a warm-up on the intermediate tyre so that they can save extra sets for later on in qualifying and in the race. So that's the reason that some drivers go out on the intermediate tyre. They just want to save a set of tyres. So here's Wilson Hughes then, starting a flying lap, but I believe he's already invalidated this flying lap. So I think we're going to have to jump away from your favourite driver and pick someone else up. Who we got out there at the minute? Thyman Shooter, is he on a lap? No, he's invalidated his lap as well. What about Jarno Opmeer? He's starting one. Jake Benham, his teammate though, is further round the lap. So let's pick him up at the minute as he makes his way through the middle sector, or the final sector now, as he goes through that long sweeping right-hander. Dan, talk us through that right-hander. Very, very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, you're going to be feeling it on your neck, most importantly, and it is a very bad corner to take if you've got any wing damage, and you're certainly going to have to lift off or brake at that point. Jake Benham has had a slide through the final corner there. He's backed out of that lap, and that was not a good run by his standards, or PSGL F1 standards at 32.5. He's going to have to go again. That won't see him into the next session of qualifying. his teammate at the moment, Jan Otmir, right in the thick of things at the moment, Andy. He's just in the second, coming up towards the third sector now. But I'm not too sure if he's pushing too hard at the moment.
Yeah, it does look like the majority of the drivers, they're not pushing too hard. They want to qualify on the medium tyre, so they're not setting the bar too high. They're just doing a warm-up on these soft tyres to get their eye in for their medium runs later on. That certainly looks like it. Even Jarno Otmir out there, not on a particularly good lap. The driver's just kind of almost killing time, really. And we're going to see Otmir peel into the pits here. The only representative time we've seen is from Danny Beresney, a 1:30.8. Everyone else, look at that. You can see it on your screen now, pouring into the pit lane. I do expect Louis Welsh to go for a lap. Okay, he's invalidated his as well. He usually likes to go for the soft tyre to get into the next part of qualifying, but it doesn't look like he'll be doing that. Jake Benham also on another lap, but again, it looks like he's coming back to the pit. 6 seconds down. It looks like the majority of drivers are keen for a lap on the medium tyre here, Dan, doesn't it?
Yep, they're all fitting that yellow wall tyre. Barry Brumand is the first one to test the waters. Actually, Nicholas Longuet is just in front of him at the moment, so these guys can do the first runs on mediums. Of course, Danny Beresney likely at this point is going to go through, but I'd say that time isn't too much quicker than we see them from the mediums. It's around about 1.3 seconds difference from the time loss of a soft to a medium tyre, of course, C4 and C3. So we'll see how they all get along, but if they're all qualifying on the mediums, it's going to be a very interesting dash to see who is going to have that massive advantage coming into the third part of qualifying and then into the start of the race.
Yep, going to be very interesting to see how it all pans out, but absolutely no one going near the soft compound of tyre. I think that tells us an awful lot about how the drivers feel about the strategy here tonight. So Nicholas Longuet then looks like he's going to be the first man to set the bar with a medium tyre run. So the Frenchman coming around the final couple of corners now in his Red Bull, warming the tyres up, getting himself in the zone. And this is where we see these top drivers in their element at their very best. They get one lap on these mediums to make it work, and more often than not, they deliver. So let's see how Longuet gets on as he brakes late for turn number 1. Swings it into that first corner, gets on the throttle and heads down the hill through turn 2. Takes a little bit of curb. Jarno Otmir kindly jumps clean out of the way. Doesn't affect Longuet at all as he now makes his way over the curbs. Doesn't want to go too wide, want to stay tight to that inside. It allows you to sweep over to this left-hand side. And Nicholas Longuet at the minute putting a very tidy opening sector together. No track extending, well within the white lines. And Longuet now getting to the bottom of the hill for the braking zone for the hairpin. Swings it in, clips the inside curb. A little bit of oversteer there for Longuet on exit, but not troubling him too much as he can now open up the DRS. As you can see, the rear wing wide open on the Red Bull, with the Honda engine singing as it blasts it over 200 miles an hour into the braking zone for the next left-hander. So Longuet at the minute looking pretty tidy, if not emphatic, Dan. Looking solid.
Yeah, he's looking nice and neat at the moment. A little snap of oversteer through turn number 13, but he's managed to catch the car. He's now coming in towards turn number 16 and 17, just before the DRS detection point around this track, because we've got, I believe that's a Ferrari of Brendan Lee. It indeed is getting out of the way very nicely indeed for the Frenchman as he comes through now the final corner, turn number 20, and opening up the DRS for the last time on this lap, and to lay down the gauntlet on the medium tyres. That's 31.6. When we saw in Q1 that runners were typically doing high 31s, and Barry Brumand has immediately disproved that. What a time from him there, 1 minute 31.4.
Yeah, great time there from Barry Burman to topple him. Who else we got out there on a lap? I believe Daniele Haddad is on one now on the soft tyre. Let's see how he lines up in comparison to Barry Burman and Nicholas Longuet. So nearly 2 tenths between Burman and Longuet. Does that allow Haddad to slot in between them? No, 32-0 from Haddad. It must have invalidated somewhere, so it didn't quite go to plan for Daniele Haddad. We've got one of the Ferraris in the final corner. It's not Brendan Lee, it's Danny Beresney, but he's coming into the pit lane. What about Saipos? He is in the final corner, and he's going for the softs. So there is some drivers out there going for softs. Saipos is one of them, and that should book his place in the next part of qualifying. So Patrick Saipos delivers a time. Liam Parnell has now delivered a time on mediums, a 1:31.9, not the quickest, but it's a solid effort from him nonetheless. What about Alessio Di Capo? He has invalidated his latest run, so it won't be happening for him. How's Shinaka Clay getting on? He's out there now on the medium tyre. Is it a quick lap? I'm not sure. I don't think it is a quick lap, though, from Shinaka Clay. I might be wrong. Let's see how he gets on around the final couple of corners. Back-end sliding. No, it does look like a relatively strong lap then from Shinaka Clay. Round the final corner. How does it stack up? Over the line goes P4. In between Barry and Longay. We thought we might see a few cars in that gap, as Wilson Hughes also slots into that gap. Goes P5 between Barry and Longay. So he goes P6 now, as Brendan Lee also slots into that gap in P4. So we're seeing a lot of times now, how is the reigning championship leader and champion Jarno Opmeer getting on the medium tyre? How does his time stack up against that of Barry Burman? The quickest medium tyre run we've seen so far of a 31.4. It's a 31.4 also from Jarno Opmeer, and he goes top of the timings. Great effort there from Opmeer. Well, not top of the timings, but the quickest medium runner so far, Dan.
Yeah, great run from Jarno Opmeer there, and I think he'd be pretty pleased with that lap. Daniele Haddad was just behind on circuit, but he's pulled into the pit lane. At the moment, the bottom 5 in Q2 is looking like this. Thomas Ronhaar with a 1:43. That's not a representative lap time of his pace. He's in 11th with Louis Welch, the Capua, Timon Shooter, and Daniele Haddad, all without lap times on the board. So we'll see, we've got a little bit of a lull in this qualifying session as all the runners are coming into the pits or on cool-down laps. So I guess that leaves us with a little bit of free time, but we do have Louis Welch coming out on circuit on his set of the medium compound tyre. The runners in behind him, De Capua, Shooter and Haddad, all fitting the soft, Sandy.
Well, we do have Thomas Ronhaar still out there giving us some entertainment, as he is on a hot lap now in the mediums. It must be his second lap, as you touched on, Dan, and not very representative opening effort, so he must have backed out of it pretty early on, but he's going for it on a second run. So with the second lap on these tyres, how can Thomas Ronhaar get on? Round the final corner, across the line, solid effort on a second run, goes P5, 1:31.550. That might see him through. It'll depend how many go for softs.
Yeah, well, at the moment, we've got 4 drivers in the pit lane on a set of the soft compounder tyre who are on the bubble or out of qualifying at the moment. 2 times at the top of the order are on soft. So if all of those guys have are going to put their lap times on a set of the soft compounder tyre, that means there's only going to be room for, I believe it's 4 timed runs on the mediums that will be in Q3. That currently is occupied by Jarno Opmeer, Barry Burman, Thomas Ronhaar and Brendan Lee. So the likes of Clay, Hughes, Longay, at the moment, they're not going to be safe in the next part of qualifying. But Nicholas Longay, Andy, he's on his outlap on the same set of the mediums.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget, Jake Benham did his first time on the softs, so that's another driver. Just to show you there's the proof as I change it to the tyre the time was set on. He is now out on mediums, Jake Benham. So that's another driver that is yet to do a time on mediums. And because he's going later, with the track a little bit more rubbered in, you'd expect him to go quite quickly on his medium tyres. So he will be one to watch as well. So there's more than, not just 4. We've got Louis Welch 2, and now we've got, as you say, Shinaka Clay on an outlap on softs as Welch has spun it out of turn 1 on his mediums. And that has ruined his latest run. Will he have time to get round again? He should. But that is going to put him under a lot of pressure. Not at all how Louis Welch would have wanted to start his flying lap at all, Dan.
Yeah, lighting up the rears as well for Louis Welch. It's not going to be beneficial whatsoever. And, well, he's not going to be on for a quick lap if he's on slightly worn out mediums, especially from that spin. He's keen to get by Brendan Lee. I don't think the Ferrari wants to scrap with him too hard. I believe that the likes of Lee and Clay are out on circuit on a set of the soft compounder tyre just in case they need to put in a timed run. If they see that they're about to be eliminated from qualifying, they're going to complete the lap. But if they're safely in the top 10, then they are going to just back out of their lap, let the medium run be the quicker, and then go into Q3. That particular strategy is actually going to work out best for Brendan Lee because he is going to be the last person out on circuit, and likely he's going to know where he is at all times. So I think this is a very good call from Brendan Lee.
Yeah, good call. Got to make sure to get himself into the next part of qualifying as we watch Liam Parnell now start a flying lap on those soft tyres. One of the men giving headaches to the drivers further up that did their times on mediums. So then, Liam Parnell through that first sector. How's he getting on? Oh, he's getting on pretty well. He's already 3/10 up on what he did on his previous lap. So And of course that was on the medium tyre, so to be expected from Liam Parnell, and at the minute he should be able to shoot himself up into the top 10 here in qualifying. Brendan Lee and Shinaka Clay starting flying laps on those softs. We'll have to wait and see if they will be bailing out of them, but at the minute it doesn't look like it because there's so many drivers out there going for times. Parnell on softs, Jake Benham's out on fresh mediums going for a lap. Louis Welsh spun, but he'll be going again, as will De Capua, Schutter and Haddad. So plenty of drivers in the bottom 5 or 6 places at the minute who have got plenty of opportunity to improve. Liam Parnell the first of them, and as you can see he's now a mammoth 9/10ths up on what he did on his previous lap, so this could be enough to see him into the top 2 places in the order. Liam Parnell then in that Red Bull makes his way through that long neck busting right-hander and into the penultimate and final turns of turn 19 and 20. Parnell then, 1 corner to go. He should surely shoot himself right up the order into the final corner. He comes now and goes P2. No surprise at all there. Here comes De Capua in the final turn. He now goes P2 and knocks Longy out of qualifying, and he's seen the checkered flag. So Nicholas Longy is out. Daniele Haddad is next to go, and he could knock Wilson Hughes into a bit of trouble. Here comes Haddad then, round the final corner. Can he now knock Wilson Hughes out of qualifying? He can by going quickest on the soft tyre. Good time from him. Jake Benham then, yet to do a time on the medium tyre. He's going to do it now. How far up the order can Jake Benham go? Can he get near the time of Barry Buremand? Here's Benham. He does go near it, but not quicker. He goes P8 at the minute. What about Simon Schutter? He's seen the checkered flag. Wilson Hughes is on a fresh lap, only manages P11. They're all trying to finish 11th. Brendan Lee's now finished 11th and has got himself right on the edge on the soft tyre, and it looked to me like they all just wanted to finish 11th at the end of that, didn't they?
Yep, of course, the mediums are the better tyre to start on. Brendan Lee has got that absolutely perfect. He knew he was already going to be in P11. No point trying to push on the set of the softs to get into the next part of qualifying, and that's worked out very nicely for him.
Yep, so there we go then. The final results from qualifying 2 here at the Circuit of the Americas. It's the soft tyre drivers are ruling the roost. Daniele Haddad on the Aston Martin P1, Patrick Saipos on the Alpine P2, Alessio De Capua P3 to get 2 Astons through. Liam Parnell was 4th with Danny Beresney 5th. Barry Buremand gets through 6th on the mediums, as does Jarno Opmeer. Shinaka Clay was 8th, Jake Benham 9th, and Thomas Ronhart completing the top 10. So Shinaka Clay, he decided to do a lap to get through. Brendan Lee didn't. Well, he decided to finish 11th. Maybe Shinaka misjudged it, not too sure. But only 3 drivers through on the medium tyres with an advantage then, Dan.
Yeah, and those guys are going to be insanely quick coming into the race because they're going to be able to set their laps in Q3 on a set of the softs, but then start the race on the set of the medium compound of tyre. And don't forget, they are going to be completely fresh as well. If I'm not mistaken, we are still going to be doing a restart at the end of Q3 to eliminate any potential glitch that will occur, of course, with the tyres and resetting the wear in between qualifying and the race. So those guys will have even more of an advantage coming into this one.
Yeah, so we're going into the third and final part of qualifying then. This is where we start to get to the business end. It's time, Dan, to go and tell us who you think is going to get pole position. We've seen plenty of qualifying action, 2 sessions worth. It's time to make your prediction. Who's for pole? Are you going Wilson Hughes? No, is he through Wilson Hughes? No, he's not out.
No,
Oh,
he's out.
Of course. Who are you going for then?
It's a difficult one to call, but I think around 1 lap around this circuit, going to go with Barry Buremand for pole.
Oh, you're going Barry Buremand. I wanted to go Barry Buremand for pole as well, Dan, but I'm going to go with something different because you're telling me to go for something different. Well, you're not telling me to. We just like to. It's fair. It's not boring. So you're going to go for Barry Buremand. Let me have a look at that top 10. Oh, you know what? It's hard to ignore. I'm going for Jarno Opmeer. If you go for Barry Buremand, I'll go for Jarno Opmeer for pole position. Now, let's turn to the chat. Tell us, folks, who's going to get that pole position tonight here in PSGL, round 11 of the championship here in Kota. Tell us right now. We're going to jump into the action. Well, you tell us. And Jake Benham and Patrick Saipos are on outlaps as we speak. Tell us in chat who is going to get pole. We've got people saying Jarno. We've got one person going for Danny Beresney. But most people shouting for Jarno. Jake Benham pole, I'm reading as well. Someone's going for Liam Parnell. Wow. I tell you what, that would be some shout if Liam Parnell can get the pole position. Best of luck to you on that one. Beresney, a few shouts for Beresney, but mostly Jarno being shouted for, and a couple of people going for Barry Buremand as well. But it looks like Jarno, the strong favourite for pole for the majority of people in chat.
Yep, I think a lot of people are on the Jarno Opmeer fan train at the moment, and for good reason. Of course, a 3-time PSGL champion and a 2-time F1 Esports World Champion. I'm also seeing a lot of love in the chat for Jake Benham as well, so we could see the young Englishman on top in qualifying. And actually, Andy, he's just beginning on his lap on the run-up towards the first corner, where of course you can brake a bit later than you typically would. Of course, an uphill turn in, it is going to be a lot nicer on the brakes, a lot less frequent lockups into there, as down in towards this first sector, a lovely undulating part of the circuit where you flick from left, right, and then back left again, carrying all the speed that you can. Slight hesitation on the brakes for Jake Benham. You can't take it flat throughout this portion of the circuit. Then you got to go right towards the edge of the track without extending it all too much, but he's been very tidy through this first sector, and he's got 2 more to navigate. Yeah,
there's a few people saying that my mum might get pole position as well. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If you've ever seen my mum play the Formula 1 game, she's got absolutely no chance of getting pole. So, yeah, no chance of that one, chat. I'm going to be honest. But here is Jake Benham on a lap then with 9 minutes to go in qualifying. How is he going to get on then? A few people in chat going for this man for pole. The majority for Jarno Opmeer. Some for Barry Burman. Danny Beresney getting love. Liam Parnell too. So it's wide open as we go into this final part of qualifying. Jake Benham going to be the first man to set the bar for everyone on track then. Here comes the Mercedes driver swinging through turns 17 and 18. Absolutely flying into the final couple of corners. 19 comes at you quickly. Keep it on the track. He can't keep it on the track. Invalidates and dives into the pit. So easy to do that at that final corner, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, he has bottled that lap, unfortunately, as has some other drivers. Patrick Sipos not on a valid push lap. I believe that leaves Alessio De Capua, the next driver to cross the line on his timed run. Then Shanaka Clay in behind him. I've been seeing some calls for Alessio De Capua to be on pole. Well, he can be provisionally on pole if he's the first driver to put his lap time in. So these people can be half right if they're giving all the love to the Italian driver. Of course, when he was on Xbox in other leagues, I know that he was a very dominant driver. Now he's on the PC, mixing it in with some of the best on the F1 games. He comes in towards turns number 19 and 20. They come at you oh so quickly around this circuit and into the final corner, the final left-hander to complete his valid lap time. It is going to be the first time on the board in Q3 with a 1 minute 30.651.
Yeah, so good start to the session there for Alessio De Capua then. So what about Shanaka Clay? Oh dear, he's invalidated the lap, so it's not gone to plan for Shanaka Clay. So the next man on one is Barry Burman. Here he is then, your pick for pole position. Let's see how he gets on, Dan. It's Barry on the charge. The man from Iran is on a quick lap. Let's see how it goes then as he makes his way towards that middle sector timing beam, which we'll see him go through in a few moments now. In that papaya McLaren, Barry Burman, 1 minute 0.851 through the middle sector. It lights up in purple on the right hand side, which means he's fastest of all and currently going quicker than Alessio De Capua, making his way now out of the hairpin and then swinging through 17 and 18. Barry Burman gunning for yet another pole position. He's had so many. He's been one of the quickest drivers, if not the quickest, in qualifying this season in PSGL. Round the final corner, Barry Burman running to the line. What's the time to beat? It's a 1 minute 30.1 from him. That's scintillating stuff. Haddad now crosses the line. He can only manage P3. What about Jarno Opmeer? He has invalidated the lap, so he's on the back foot in qualifying here. It's not gone to plan for Jarno Opmeer. What about Beresney? He's also invalidated the lap. It's not going to plan for him either. And Sipos is also going slowly. So, what about Liam Parnell? There was a few surprise shouts for him to get pole. Can he do it? Liam Parnell then, round the final corner, across the line. It's a 130.7. It's only enough to go P3 6/10 off the time from Liam Parnell, from Barry Burman, sorry. Great effort from him. Jake Benham on an outlap. Anyone else on a quick lap? Shanaka Clay's going slowly. What about Thomas Ronhar? He is on one, Dan.
Yeah, he's just coming through the final sector now and he's gone purple in Sector 2. So Thomas Ronhaar could be on for a surprise twist in Q3 as he's got a 1 minute 30.170 to beat at the moment. Where can he put his AlphaTauri as he comes into now the final corner? The Dutchman of Thomas Ronhaar out of the final turn. A little bit of a slide on the exit, kicking out the tail, but it's 2,000th of a second on provisional pole ahead of Barry Burman and Thomas Ronhaar. I'd say he can find some more time in that, but even so, that is still a scintillating lap.
Well, there wasn't many people in chat that went for Thomas Ronhaar. I think I did see a few. And I tell you what, if you're one of those people, well done so far. What a time from Thomas Ronhaar. 2,000s ahead of Barry Burman. And it's a super lap from the young Dutchman to go quickest of all in the AlphaTauri. Awesome stuff there from Ronhaar. Who can beat it? Jake Benham is on a hot lap now, and he's coming towards the end of the long straight and swinging into turn number 12. Jake Benham then on a hot lap and looking to try and help push towards the title. He's in an outside bet for the title. Is he already in position trying to help Jarno Opmeer win for Mercedes and try and get in the way of Barry Burman's attempts to slow down the title party and keep the champagne on ice? No title yet for Opmeer. He can win it tonight. He needs to outscore Barry Burman by 11 points as here comes Jake Benham round the final couple of corners. And again, Jake Benham abandons the lap. He's a little bit ragged. He's not feeling himself out there. And after 2 attempts, no time on the board for him. No time for Beresney, Opmeer, Cyprus or Clay yet.
Yeah, so at the moment in our picks for pole position, it's going to be Barry 1, Jarno 0 without a lap time on the board at the moment. He's going only. Can't even get my words out at the moment. He's only going to have one one time to actually set on the board, so it's going to be difficult for the Dutchman. But if anyone can do it, it is going to be him, as Thomas Ronhaar has actually run out of fuel on his way into the pit lane, and that is going to mean that we have no cars out on circuit. It's a bit like a ghost town at the moment, Andy, as all the drivers are in the pit lane lurking at the moment, but already I can see there's an activity down at Alpine, and it's Patrick Saipos coming out of the garage first, and I believe being followed by Danny Beresney.
Yep, so the two Hungarians not hanging around, and they're both making their way out of the pits and onto an outlap. Okay, everyone in chat, you've told us who you think's going to get pole. Now, tell us what the pole time is going to be. Are we going to dip into the 29s? Is that going to be possible, or would that be too tall an order? Will we get a 30.0? How quick a time are we going to see? Dan, what do you think? Do you think we'll get into the 29s, or is that a really tall order?
I don't think they will, unfortunately. I mean, I love to throw out some crazy predictions, but I don't believe we're going to get into the 29s. I think we'll be on a 30.0. Getting very close to flat, but I don't believe that anyone is going to be able to dip in, because when you get to this point, you know, the returns are diminishing for the amount of work you put in, and you could put on a perfect lap, but you're not going to find much more time than what Thomas Ronhaar's already done at the top of the order. So I'm saying that we are going to keep it at a 30. I'm seeing some 29.6s in there, and even if we do go down into the 29s, I think that's a bit ambitious.
Yeah, well, you know what? They're a demanding bunch to everyone in the chat, and they want to see perfection. Who knows? We might get perfection. It's PSGL, for goodness sake. We might see something very special tonight. So hang around, folks. Stay tuned in. Great to have so many people tuned in tonight. More than 2,000 of you enjoying the action here, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you enjoy what you see, leave a like and subscribe, and be sure to check it out every single Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We have this action. Very, very exciting stuff. If you were watching Patrick Saipos there, a few eagle-eyed viewers would have seen him revving the engine. Now, if anyone was wondering why that is, the reason he's trying to dump as much fuel as possible to leave him the minimum amount of fuel for a hot lap and no more. And given how close it is between Ronhaar and Burman, you can see why they do it. They look for every fraction of a second in 10th and 1000th and 100th they can get, Dan. That's just how close it is and how competitive it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is stuff that, you know, it's not optional at this level. It's something you have to do if you want to maximize the potential of the car and maximize your potential in these sim rigs. So it is wonderful that we get to see all these drivers pulling out these crazy strategies to give themselves an advantage. Of course, everyone is doing it at the moment. That's why they're all very slow to go around their outlap. But it is just great to see as Patrick Sipos, he is going to have the worst of the conditions in the terms of the track conditions, because of course there's not going to be as much rubber laid down. It's not going to make too much of a difference. But we'll see what he can do as he comes in towards the final sector now. Of course, turn number 12, this is to cross into sector 3. We'll see what his sector's times are looking like at the moment. And he's purple on the track map. So this could look like an impressive time, Andy, for Patrick Sipos, as we've got 5 seconds left to go before the clock strikes 0 and no more laps can be begun. From this point on, the race for pole is now, Andy.
I tell you what, Danny Beresney matching what we've seen from Barry Burman and Thomas Ronhar through the middle sector, as Sipos has now invalidated the lap and he's furious with it. You see him shaking the wheel. So all attention turns to his fellow Hungarian. Here comes Danny Beresney, very strong through the middle sector. Is it enough to go quickest of all? It is! Danny Beresney, P1 for Ferrari. The Hungarian shoots to the top of the order. Is this Charles Leclerc? Is this F1 2022? What a time from Danny Beresney. Ferrari have saved the best till last. But here comes Alessio Di Capua, not with a quick lap because he's invalidated it. So here comes Barry Burman back for more. Knocked off top notch by Thomas Ronhar and now by Danny Beresney. Burman with just one corner left to negotiate. Can the man from Iran retake pole position? He can! 130.0. What a time from him. Here comes Jarno Opmeer. Can he now steal it back? He can! Almost into the 29s. Not quite enough. We now wait for Shanaka Clay. He's invalidated the lap. What about Haddad? He crosses the line, only manages P5. Jake Benham, he's next over the line and he's on a pretty good lap. Benham crosses the line, only manages P3. Parnell now to the line, P7, and last but not least, Thomas Ronhar. Is it pole? No, it's not. The lap was invalidated, and it's all done here in qualifying. Opmeer tried his best, but couldn't quite get into the 29s and give the chat what they wanted. But nonetheless, they got what they wanted. It's Pogmere on pole here in Kota. What a time, Dan.
Oh, that's got to be one of the most phonetic finishes to an F1, for a PSGL F1 qualifyings I've ever seen. Look at the gaps that we are witnessing. Just 0.02 of a second between the top two. It's Jarno Opmeer, Barry Burman, and Jake Benham in third as well. The top 3 in the championship line up 1, 2, and 3 on the grids.
Absolutely incredible. Jarno Opmeer wants to win the title tonight. He doesn't want to leave his fans waiting another week. He wants it done. He's going to have to hope for some favours. If Burman and Benham finish second and third, it will go for another week. But he's doing everything he can with pole position tonight. He's on top with Barry Burman on the front row. Jake Benham is third and Danny Beresney is an impressive fourth. Thomas Ronhar was fifth. He was quickest at the start of the session but dropped down. Haddad sixth. Parnell seventh. Di Capua eighth. Sipos 9th with no time, and Shanaka Clay rounds out the top 10 in P10. What a session that was. And Dan, you got first pick, but I won. Opmeer pole. Brilliant.
Okay, we'll call it a 2-1 victory for you then. You know what? I'll hold my hands up there. You've beat me on that one, but who could deny Jarno Opmeer? We weren't quite into the 1 minute 29s, but I think if you combine the efforts of Jarno and Barry, you know, that they would have been in the 29s, because that was an incredible end to qualifying. I did notice one thing as well. I looked at Alessio Di Capua's time. He was actually quick enough to go third fastest. So it's a real pity that he invalidated his time. And I think Ronhar was also quick enough to go ahead of Benham, but in behind Di Capua, so he'd have been fourth. So the tight margins, if we actually saw every driver finish their lap to completion, they would have been even tighter.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Really enjoyed the session, Dan. You said it was a frenetic finish. It was. The times were changing all the time. 1 minute it was Ronhar, next minute he was down in fifth, and Jarno Opmeer had stolen pole almost into the 29s. What a session, and what a Grand Prix we're in for. Dan, I've got to ask you, as we wait for the lobby to reset, folks, obviously there was a recent patch. We just want to reset the lobby and try and erase any potential glitches that might happen. So bear with us, folks. We will get what should be a thrilling race underway very soon. But Dan, this should be a cracker. Top 3 in the championship, top 3 in the order. It should be epic. Can you pick a winner?
Oh, I believe the top 3 are all on the set of the medium compounder tyre as well. So that's a very tough position to be in. I think if you're anyone behind them, really, you've got to go for one of those 3.
Yeah.
And just because I like having a bit of fun, the obvious choice would be Jarno or Barry, but I think Jake Benham wins today.
Okay, fair enough. You're going for Jake Benham to win and help prolong the championship battle. Well, folks, while we're waiting for the action to begin again and get back in the lobby, let's take a look at the championship standings and just refresh your minds, folks, before we get in. Just to tell you guys, there is 68 points available. So there's 17 points available on any given night, 16 for the victory, and 1 point for the fastest lap. So there's 4 rounds left, 17 points times 4 rounds is 68 points available. Jarno Opmeer, as you can see on screen, has a 40-point advantage. There will only be 51 points available after tonight's action. So if he can get that gap up from 40 to 51 by the end of tonight, he will be the champion. If he can outscore Barry Buneman by 11 points, he will be champion. If he can outscore Jake Benham by, how many would it be? We need to outscore him by how many? Help me. I don't know. I'm terrible at maths. But there you go. He needs to outscore Barry Buneman anyway by 11 points. And that will seal it for him. But there is the standings in full. Jarno Opmeer on 109. Barry Buneman on 69. Jake Benham on 63. Shinaka Clay on 51. And look at Alvaro Caraton there. 5th in the standings, Dan. We spoke about this earlier. Knocked out in Q1. That's why it's such a big shock, folks. 19th in the grid. 5th in the standings.
Yeah, that was a real massive surprise to all of us to see him be eliminated so early on in qualifying. I'm going to be checking his Twitter out later just to see what the issue was for him, because it's so uncharacteristic of Alvaro Caraton to be in that position and be out of qualifying so early. But tell you what though, given how quick he is, especially around this circuit, winning here, of course, I've mentioned it about 3 times at this point, winning here in season 28, he's going to have a fun time overtaking everyone today.
Yeah, let's see how Alvaro Caraton gets on. It should be really entertaining, as you say, watching him come through. Danny Beresney 6th on 38, Wilson Hughes on 35, Longy Tormala and Brendan Lee rounding out the top 10 in the standings. But it's all about what's happening at the top. I'll reiterate it once more. 11 points. Jarno Opmeer needs to outscore Barry Buneman by to win the title. So big chance for Opmeer tonight. He would need to outscore Benham by what would it be, 5? I'd guess, because there's a 6-point difference between Barry and Benham. So yeah, I mean, he would need to outscore Benham by 5, Barry by 11 to win the title. So yes, 40-point gap, 68 available, 51 available at the end of tonight. That is the situation in the Drivers' Championship. Now, a few people tuning in for the first time. If you want to tune in again next week, as I said, leave a like and subscribe to the channel and help us out here at PSGL. Be sure to come and watch the action every week. It's really exciting as always. You've just seen a thrilling qualifying session. Here is the updated PC calendar. We've had Singapore where Brendan Lee won last week. This is the 4 rounds left. We're in USA tonight. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out the next 3 races after tonight. Will it be Brazil before Jarno Opmeer wins the title? Will he go on a bad run? Will it go all the way to Bahrain? Who knows? We've got USA tonight, Brazil, Italy, and then Bahrain to complete the season. Dan, have you had an invite back to the lobby? I'm still waiting on what. In fact, tell a lie, I've got one now. I'm jumping back into the lobby in a few moments' time. And while we do that, let's have a quick look at one of our great sponsors. Yeah, folks, be sure to join us on the grid. Join up the Grid Rival app and join the fantasy game. And yeah, get yourself some drivers, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, whoever you fancy, and get yourselves involved with Grid Rival. Great app, great fantasy league app, and compete against your friends as well. But we're about to get underway, folks. Everyone is now back in the lobby. And maybe they're just waiting on me to spectate, for goodness sake. I am now spectating. There we go. And we can hopefully get the action underway in a few moments. It's time now, folks, to tell us in chat who you think's going to win this race. Dan, you've really stuck your neck on the line, haven't you? You think Jake Benham's going to get the victory. I do feel it's between that front three. They're all on the medium tyres. The 7 behind them are all on softs, and we feel the medium tyre strategy is the way to go. So I'm going to go Otmere. I do. I think he's going to make it 6 out of 7. Obviously, Brendan Lee last week ended the 5-race win streak. So it's 5 wins and 6 for Otmere. Can he make it 6 wins and 7? As he's been on a rampage, Dan, hasn't he, in the second half of the season. Ever since the French Grand Prix and the controversy, he has just went up a level and took off, hasn't he? It's incredible the form he's been in. Yeah,
fire has been ignited in Jan Otmere. He didn't finish on the podium last race, which was unfortunate. I believe he came in 4th position, being overtaken by Burmand and Hughes. So it was an unfortunate race for Jan Otmere, but I do believe he had some hardware issues, if I'm not mistaken, and also his tyres. His strategy wasn't great, and that put him on the back foot. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him winning here today, but I think I'm going to say this now, and I think a lot of the Yano fans in the live chat would be upset with me. I don't think he's winning the title tonight. I think we're going to wait at least one more week for that.
Yeah, well, what do you think in the chat, folks? Can he win it tonight? 11 points he needs to outscore Barry Burman by, and Jake Benham by 5. So tell us in chat, folks, do you believe in your man? I know there's a lot of Yarno fans in chat. Can he do it tonight? He's going to need some favours, some bad races from Burman and Benham, or are you going to keep the champagne on ice and have the party next week in Brazil? Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very, very exciting. Some people saying it's going to be 50-50. Some people saying he's winning it tonight. We'll have to wait and see. Is that the race or the championship or both? Well, I'm excited to see how it gets on. But we are now loading into the lobby, folks. The formation lap will be getting underway in a few moments' time, obviously. Just the way the game is at the minute. Recent patch, we just have to have a slight pause and make sure that everything's working properly. A lobby reset. It's the safest way to ensure that you guys have an entertaining race and we all have an entertaining race as well, and we've got no issues, and the drivers have an error-free race as well, and that of course is the most important thing. They put so much practice in here in PSGL, just like they do in esports. We don't want any glitches causing them problems, but thankfully I can tell you guys now we're about to jump into the action. So Dan Field, you've gone for Jake Benham for the win. I'm going for Jarno Opmeer. You're saying no title today. I'm also saying no title today. Sorry, folks. I'm telling you to get the party poppers back in the box next week. I could be wrong, though. I've been wrong many, many times. Dan, but I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be putting my champagne back in the fridge for the time being. But who knows? We might be needing it today. Anything can happen in PSGL. So, for all you hopeful Jarno Opmeer fans at home, just because we're saying that he's not winning it tonight does not mean that he is not going to pull off an incredible drive. I mean, what do we know? We're two idiot commentators. So you know, who knows how it's all going to end up today. But one thing that I do know is that we're in for a nice and sunny Grand Prix in Austin, as all the drivers are locking in their strategies.
Yep, it is dry conditions here at the Circuit of the Americas. 20 turns around this racetrack. A modern classic, one of Herman Tilke's best racetracks he's built. I enjoy driving it. I'm more a commentator than a driver. Dan, is it one that you enjoy driving?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of my favourite circuits to race on. I do typically go off the circuit. I'm quite terrible on the F1 game, but you know, I'd say all these drivers are a lot more skilled than you and I are. So I'd say that we're going to see a lot less penalties than probably we would accumulate on our own.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's time, folks, that we jumped into it. We've kept you waiting long enough, but the action is ready to commence. The formation lap is underway. Is this the night where Jarno Opmeer wins the championship, or will we go on for another week? Let's take a look then at the tyre compounds. As we know, we forgot Thomas Ronhart also qualified on the medium tyre, so he's not in the top 3, but he is still 5th. And is still in a reasonable position to strike and get involved in the fight at the front. So the top 3 on mediums, Danny Beresney on softs, Thomas Ronhart on mediums, and then 6th through to 10th, Daniele Haddad, Liam Parnell, Alessio De Capua, Patrick Saipos, and Chinaka Clay all on softs. And as you can see, as you'd expect, Dan, everyone outside the top 10 going for the alternate strategy. Brendan Lee and that magic P11.
Yeah, I mean, the alternate strategy around any circuit really is the superior option. That's why we always see drivers try and get into Q3 on a set of the medium compound of tyre. Of course, once we get into F1 22, which is coming out, I believe, on the 1st of July, and once season 31 gets underway, I'd imagine that that rule is going to be scrapped as it is in this season of real F1. So possibly we're going to see all the runners try and go for it on a set of the softs in quali, then use the mediums in the race. As they're just coming through now the third sector. And Andy, we've got Jarno Opmeer and Barry Burman on the front row. The top three in the championship making up the top three on the grid. They're pulling into their grid slots very, very soon. And I cannot wait for this one to get underway.
Yep, we're getting underway in a few moments' time. Here is the man that in a little under an hour's time could be celebrating another PSGL F1 Championship. Jarno Opmeer lining himself up into his grid slot. Barry Burman lines up alongside him. He's the man looking to stop him. If he finishes right behind Opmeer, it will not be won tonight, the championship. Jake Benham, if he finishes where he is behind Jarno Opmeer, also meaning that the championship will not be won tonight. It's unlikely. But stranger things have happened in PSGL. They all line up into the positions. We're waiting on the guys at the back. Here's a man that will be looking to come through the field after a really, really sketchy qualifying session on the back row. Alvaro Caraton, 5th in the championship, but only 19th in qualifying. What can he do from down there? So many questions, not many answers. Matthias Van Erven, he's also out of position. He moves himself into position at the back as the 5 red lights come on. As we get ready for round 11 in the championship. Will Opmeer be champion today? We'll find out as the 5 lights go out. And we're racing here in Texas. It's a good start from Opmeer, a poor start from Burman, and Jake Benham tries to sweep into second place. And down the inside goes Beresney, forces Burman and Benham wide, and we've got chaos in behind. That looked like one of the Aston Martins having an issue, but it appears they've all got through safely in the end. It's the perfect start for Jarno Opmeer. He leads from Danny Beresney second and Barry Burman third. Another car going off the track. Haddad, who's been in the wars an awful lot early on, and he's finally got going again, but right down at the back of the field, Dan.
Yeah, unfortunate for Haddad. He's going to have to climb his way back through the order. We've got Patrick Sipos and Louis Welch doing battle at the moment. For P14, it's going to be the Hungarian coming out on top. Shanaka Clay is looking to get past Thomas Ronhar and Alessia de Capua as they're all going to be fighting down this long back straight here. Danny Beresney as well is closing up to the rear of Jarno Opmeer, and I think he's going to make a move in towards turn number 12. Here he goes, the Hungarian driver to the inside of Opmeer, and on his fresh Red Wall soft tyre, he's going to be taking the lead on lap number 1.
So Danny Beresney not hanging around from 4th on the grid to the lead on the soft compound tyre, having a flying start, and it's exactly what he needs to do if he wants to win this afternoon. So good stuff there from Danny Beresney. Meanwhile, in behind, plenty of action going on in the lower reaches of the top 10. We've got Brendan Lee all over the back of Thomas Ronhar like a rash, but at the minute, no way through for the Singapore Grand Prix race winner. As he continues to follow Thomas Ronhar, Shanaka Clay must have damage. He's coming into the pits at the end of the opening lap as Ronhar gets a little bit wide, and now Brendan Lee is perfectly positioned to maybe have a go down the start-finish straight towards turn 1. Brendan Lee having a little shake of his wheel, but not quite close enough to consider any moves into the first corner. Brendan Lee not quite hitting the heights of Singapore yet, but he's on the march up through the field, and he's gained quite a lot of positions. He's up 4, as is Wilson Hughes, who's followed him through the mayhem. So Brendan Lee up 4, Wilson Hughes up 4, Longay and Schutter up 3, as is Van Erven at the back of the field, and Danny Beresney, the other big winner, as is de Capua. They're both up 3 as well. Biggest loser has to be Patrick Sipos, who's down 3. Obviously Haddad and Clay, who've had problems as well.
We'll hope that they can come back into this race later on. Shanaka Clay, of course, with damage, has had to box onto a set of the hards, but both Sipos and Haddad are both still well within this train at the minute, so we'll see how they get along. Of course, on lap number 2, we're not going to be seeing any DRS just yet in this Grand Prix, but certainly someone who'll be feeling the pressure of that is going to be Thomas Ronhar. He's 1.2 seconds, 1.1 off the back of Alessia de Capua, and at this moment in time, Andy, he's not going to be picking up that drag reductive system. That's going to leave him vulnerable to the likes of Lee, Hughes and Parnell in behind.
Yep, really good spot there, Dan. Thomas Ronhar, as you say, not getting the benefit of the DRS, and that's probably because de Capo's on the grip here, fresher soft tyres in front of him, and as you say, that will leave him vulnerable when the the DRS is active, but at the minute he should be okay. Meanwhile, Liam Parnell, who's also in the softs, is going on the attack of some of the medium runners, and he's right behind Wilson Hughes and Brendan Lee at the minute as well, and he will be keen to make some progress as they go over the line, and DRS is now enabled, and I'm pretty sure Ron Hart will start to be reeled in on this lap. And as well as that, Alessio Di Capo will be looking himself about making some moves, perhaps on Jake Benham, who's just about staying within the DRS of Barry Burman, but Burman not within DRS of Jarno Opmeer, just about on the bubble at around 1.0 seconds. He needs to get back within range there, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Barry Burman to come out on top and close the gap in the championship if he loses out on that DRS. Jake Benham on the cusp of dropping out of the 1 second window to Barry Burman. Yes. So if he's not able to get the benefit of the DRS, then Alessio Di Capua, surely with the grippier soft tyre and the superior speed in the slipstream and DRS, he's going to cruise on by and take 4th position. I don't think that's without any question, as there he goes in towards P4, uncontested by Jake Benham, and Brendan Lee in behind gets by on Thomas Ron Hart.
And not only that, Simon Shooter and Patrick Saipos going side by side into the braking zone, and Saipos gets his nose in front, also on the soft tyre ahead of Simon Shooter. So 3 moves down that straight on this particular lap. Di Capua ahead of Benham, Lee ahead of Ron Hart, and Saipos ahead of Shooter. Plenty of action here at the start of the Grand Prix in Texas. Meanwhile, out front, it's still Danny Beresney in control, but he has not got the second cushion he's looking for over Jarno Opmeer. He'll need to do that and try and pull away while the soft tyres are the quicker tyre. And at the minute, he's just about not able to get out with a second, and Opmeer at the minute being towed along in the DRS.
Really going to hurt Beresney's race if he can't pull out a second window and get out of the DRS range of Jarno Opmeer. Opmeer's just going to be able to keep pulling him in, and that's going to hurt his strategy in the long run. Of course, he has to pit earlier and onto a set of either the medium or the hard tyres. Of course, mandatory in Formula 1. You have to use at least 2 compounds of tyre in a race scenario and make at least 1 pit stop. So Danny Beresney on the back foot at the moment. It might look like he is leading, but as long as Jarno Opmeer is in DRS, his job at the moment on the worst strategy is going to be a lot more difficult for him.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating for Beresney, almost getting above a second there. He's now at above a second, but we'll watch Opmeer close in because he's within DRS range, I'm sure. Or is he actually? Let's see. Yeah, he is getting the DRS. You can see it there in the background. So frustrating for Beresney, but I think next time round he might be okay. Meanwhile, Nicholas Longuet setting about a move on Liam Parnell. 2 teammates. Is he close enough for it? No, he's not. And that's with Longuet on the grippier medium tyre. So I think Longuet's actually just got ahead of Saipos, actually. I think that might have been the move that had just taken place. I'm not too sure. But Longuet running P10 at the minute, in behind Liam Parnell, and might be asking his teammate to move aside pretty soon because he wants to make some progress and get in with that cluster of 4 in front on the mediums. Benham, Lee, Ron Hart and Hughes. Because at the minute, Liam Parnell is the wedge, stopping him from getting at them. Maybe Parnell will maybe try and put some moves on those cars in front soon, and that would really help Longuet out.
Yeah, of course. It's a bit of a waste to be on the tyre, on the soft tyre, if Liam Parnell isn't able to actually get close enough to overtake these guys, because he's just wasting the superior grip that he has at the moment. But it is very difficult to overtake in a DRS train. He should be quickest in the first sector, which of course they're in at the moment. And if he gets a good run on Wilson Hughes through here, if he's within maybe about 2 seconds when they get to the back straight in towards turn 12, he could fancy an opportunity in the braking zone. But at the moment, he is struggling at the moment, and Nicholas Longuet certainly going to be getting annoyed. He's currently in a soft tyre sandwich because Patrick Saipos, recovering positions after his poor start, is now on the cusp of getting back into the top 10, and the Hungarian driver looking to bid battle with his former F1 Esports teammate at Alpine. Yeah, Saipos on the move. Longuet getting a little bit out of shape there and taking a lot of the curb and a little bit of the AstroTurf for good measure. So then, Saipos at the Hungarian driver beginning to get closer and closer to the back of Longuet, but it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough by the time they get to the braking zone. And Longuet, who gets the DRS, is unable, well, he's unable to get past Longuet because Longuet's got DRS to Parnell in front. But Saipos on the softs will be looking to make some progress. And is he going to go maybe for a dive bomb up the inside? Nope, he's happy to stay at the minute on the fringes of the points. Meanwhile, look at Alessio Di Capua. He's closed in on Opmeer and Barry Burman because Opmeer's lost the DRS, as you'd expect,
to Danny Beresney, and that's now allowed De Capua to close in on this duel and maybe think about going for a move there. Is De Capua going to mix it with these two speed demons down towards turn 1? De Capua in the Aston Martin, getting closer and closer. Is he going to go for the dive? No, he's not. He's going to stay there for the minute. But what do you think, Dan? Are we going to see a lunge from De Capua or a breeze by on the straight down towards turn 12 on this lap?
Yeah, but the crossover point is coming soon for the softs and the mediums in terms of their pace, and we saw that just one lap ago Danny Beresney was able to break the DRS and now has pulled out a further second advantage on Jarno Opmeer. So certainly at this point the softs are still the superior tyre. Alessio De Capua, even though he might not want to insert himself into the title picture by interfering with Barry's race, he's got to think about his own Grand Prix. We'll see what he opts to do as he exits out of turn number 11 onto this back straight and is utilising the overtake in the battery. And it is Barry Burman going to try and defend this one here. I don't believe so, because Alessio De Capua drawing alongside down this back straight. Looks to go up the inside of 1 and 2 as well. Alessio De Capua scything his way down the inside of both Barry Burman and Jarno Opmeer to put himself in second position here on lap number 6. That was hellacious from the Italian.
Lovely stuff then from Alessio De Capua. He breezes through, and I tell you what, Barry Burman will be really happy about that. Last thing he would have wanted was a car in between he and Opmeer through this twisty section, because that would have allowed a gap to open out between Opmeer and Barry Burman. But thankfully for Burman, De Capua cleared both of them in the one move, and that means that Barry Burman can stay on terms and stay stuck to the rear of Jarno Opmeer. So I'd say that's worked out quite well for the Iranian, Dan, hasn't it? As Saipos pits.
Saipos coming in pretty early on his set of the soft compound of tyre. We'll see how that works out for him as he's looking to make an undercut. I'd imagine that Beresney, De Capua and Parnell are going to give it maybe 2 or 3 laps before they decide to come into the pit lane. Typically, the set of the soft compound tyre has around about a 12 lap lifespan, so certainly for Saipos that's an early pit stop. And actually, Andy, he's come out on another set of the soft, so he's committed to a 2-stop here.
Oh, a 2-stop strategy for Patrick Saipos. We love a bit of variation here in the commentary box. We like a little bit of intrigue and a little bit of difference in the strategies. Patrick Saipos, another set of softs, 2-stop strategy. We love to see it. So let's see how that works out for the Hungarian driver. Can he make it work? Meanwhile, let's go back to Nicholas Longe, who's still chasing down his teammate. Meanwhile, behind that, Schuta has not got DRS, so that means he's at prey to this man, Dario Yamilo, and he's gone breezing past him up into 11th place. Goes the Italian ahead of the Dutch driver, and Yamilo into 11th. Tidy stuff there from him. And Dario Yamilo, who started outside the top 15, making some good headway. So another place game for him, as Barry Burman now within 4/10 of Jarno Opmeer near the front.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually helpful that Alessio De Capua has got ahead of them both.
Oh.
As was that a bit of lag for Barry Burman there?
Oh, there's a bit of lag between he and Opmeer. There's a few people in chat saying he's disconnected. He's not disconnected.
He's not.
But wow, there was certainly a big lag spike there for Jarno Opmeer as we were on board with Barry Burman. Hopefully nothing too bad. This is part of the reason, folks, why we tried to reset the lobby, and that's why we had that little pause, just to try and iron out some of these issues. I'm hoping that they have been ironed out, and that was just a minor issue, but thankfully it looks like it's smoothed itself out, folks, and we can continue with this race. But it does now look like, Dan, you said the crossover was coming soon. I think we've reached that point, because De Capua looks to me like he's holding Opmeer and Burman up a little bit now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like they want to get by very soon, but of course they are within DRS range of De Capua, so that's certainly not helping the Italians race. We'll see what Opmeer decides to do. Maybe it might actually help the Dutchman if he decides to put a car in between himself and his main championship rival at the moment. We'll see what he opts to do. It seems like he's hanging back for the time being, but Thomas Ronhaar is going to be going down the inside of Brendan Lee, just a slight bit back behind. Of course, with a penalty to his name at the moment, the Dutchman won't be keeping this position unless he appeals it to the stewards. But nevertheless, it was good respect from the pair of them, and Ron Hart up to 6th position.
I've got to agree with Chris Cox in chat. Jarno Opmeer is a very race car driver name. You know what? I've never thought of it like that, but it really is. It is a really good race car driver name. It is. It's a really good name. I've got to say, Chris Cox, thanks for your input in chat. I actually really agree with that. That's spot on. It is a really good race driver name. There's a few actually in in the game. Barry Burman's quite a race driver name as well. Thomas Ronhard, there's a few in there. There's a few, but Otmir's certainly one of them. I like that, Chris. Thanks for your input in chat. Keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming. We're on lap 9 out of 28, and Jarno Otmir running in third at the minute. And at the minute will not win the championship because Barry Burman and Jake Benham are right behind him. He is at the minute, though, the net leader of this race, kind of, because Beresnay and De Capua, well, he's not. Beresnay is the net leader from De Capua, but they are not on the ideal strategy. So if you were a bookie and you were putting a bet on, I would say that Jarno Otmir would be the favourite at this stage, Dan.
Yeah, I'd say that the race car driver name is certainly going to be the man to come out on top at the moment. Of course, once Beresnay and De Capua pit, they are technically going to have an undercut on the drivers in behind. But of course, here goes Jarno Otmir, I think. Yeah, but he's going to be easily clearing up the inside Alessio De Capua, and I think that is a signification that the medium tyres are going off pretty heavily. And I think that Jarno's picked the perfect place to do that, because now Barry Burman has to sit in behind through Sector 3, which is one of the most tricky places to follow along this circuit. And it's going to allow for a bridge to be built between himself and his main rival in behind. So Jarno Otmir, he's picked a great moment to do that.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Danny. You can see Barry Burman desperately trying to get ahead of De Capua in the braking zone, and already you can see that the gap is above a second, or just about a second. There you go. De Capua 6/10. Barry Burman a further 4/10 back, so the gap between Otmir and Burman is now indeed a second, and that is the real annoyance for Barry Burman. There's the gap to leader now. You can see it. Otmir 2.7 off the lead. Barry Burman almost 2.7, so it's almost a second. The gap between Otmir and Burman. He will not want it to stay a second because he will be out with DRS territory after he clears Alessio. So a little bit of concern for Burman. He will want to get back within range. You're absolutely right, Dan. Otmir got that done at the exact moment he needed to.
Yeah, I'd imagine that Otmir's going to try and keep Alessio De Capua in his DRS, but not too close to allow for the Italian to go for another move, just so he's going to be securing, really, De Capua from Burman in behind. It's a great call from Jarno Otmir at the moment. We'll see what Barry opts to do down this back straight. I'd imagine he wants to get by just so he can keep within touching distance of Jarno Otmir. They're all going to concertina up into this sector here. Turn number 12, and I think De Capua has a half look at going back up the inside, backs out at the very last moment with a lockup on the inside front left. But that was... It certainly looked like he wanted to go for the move there. Didn't quite pay off in the end. And that is still the annoyance of Barry Burman, who has to sit in behind and watch this once more.
I tell you what, Barry Burman probably sitting in his rig there, egging him on. On you go, Alessio, on you go for it. He'll be saying, get Jarno Otmir back within range of me. But Otmir just happy to sit there and give Alessio De Capua DRS. And that obviously means that it makes it much harder for Barry Burman to make any kind of move. So Otmir just using De Capua as a rear gunner at this stage of the Grand Prix, keeping Barry Burman at arm's length. It's a really good tactical move from him. Meanwhile out front, Danny Beresnay still in the lead of the race on the soft tyre, started P4, cut his way past two cars in the first corner and then past Otmir a few laps later, and he still holds a 2.5 second lead at this stage of the Grand Prix. They're not quite coming back at him as quickly as I thought, but there's no doubt about it, Otmir is now starting to close on Beresnay.
Yeah, I believe this time last lap it was about 2.7, 2.8 seconds gap. So certainly the mediums are quicker at this stage in the Grand Prix. But on my spreadsheet that I've got here, it says that if you start on the softs, your pit window is going to be around about lap number 11 to lap 13. So the pit window is firmly open for some of these guys. Of course, we already saw Side Possum Parnell coming in quite early in this race, as De Capua is going to be a much easier move down the inside in towards turn number 12. Jarno Otmir sees no need to fight that one, but I'd imagine that these guys are going to come into the pits, Beresnay and De Capua.
Yep, absolutely. Fantastic to have over 3,000 of you watching the action here in PSGL tonight. Thank you to every single one of you for tuning in on lap 11 out of 28. It's been a fantastic race so far, which Danny Beresnay leads, but he's lost half a second on this lap to the chasing group with Alessio De Capua and Jarno Otmir and Barry Burman hunting them down. Thanks very much for tuning in, folks. We hope you're enjoying the action here tonight. Leave a like on the video, please. Subscribe to the PSGL channel if you're new. We've got action here every Wednesday night in the top tier in PSGL at 7 PM UK time. You won't want to miss it. We've got 3 rounds to go after this one. Jarno Otmir gunning for a title tonight. He needs to outscore Barry Burman by 11 points and Jake Benham by 6. But at the minute, he is not on course to do that, as Otmir gets a little bit of a slide there on the curb going through turn 2 as we rode on board with Barry Bunneman. A bit of a error there from Otmir, but it's not too dangerous for him. But I'm sure it was a hairy moment for him in the cockpit.
Yeah, now that Alessia Capua has pitted at this point, Otmir's got no rear gunner to help him out at the moment from Barry Burmand. I'd imagine, though, that the Iranian ace is going to want to sit behind for as long as possible behind Jarno Otmir and utilise the DRS, save his tyres as well, so possibly he can go 1 lap later or maybe even 2 laps later than Jarno Otmir, pull off some sort of an overcut and have quicker tyres at the end of the race. We'll see. He's going to close up to the Mercedes, but he's not going for the move.
Yeah, he's happy to stay there at the minute. I mean, we've had plenty of chat in this Grand Prix so far about Barry and Jarno, but your pick for victory, Jake Benham, still right there, right behind them, barely mentioned him, but he is right involved in the battle. Will he try and undercut Jarno Otmir and go early? Because remember, those two cannot pit on the same lap because they're both in the Mercedes. Barry Bunneman, if he wanted, could pit in the same lap. I highly doubt he would, though. But Jake Benham has less room to manoeuvre in terms of his pit stop as Danny Beresney, as you touched on with your spreadsheet, your trusty spreadsheet, Dan. Danny Beresney, at the end of lap 12, comes into the pits and makes his stop.
The spreadsheet never lies, Andy. I make it myself during my my school study periods. Don't tell that to my teachers, but as expected, Danny Beresney comes into the pit lane, and that leaves Jarno Otmir and Barry Burmand leading this race 1 and 2 at the moment. 1 and 2 in the championship, with Jake Benham in behind as well, as Christoph Seller has just gone quickest. And I've actually just seen that, Andy, Patrick Sipos has come out considerably ahead of Danny Beresney. And when they were riding without a pit stop, I believe Sipos was in 10th.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a 5-lap undercut from Sipos. But remember, he is 2-stopping Patrick Sipos. He's going to make another pit stop. So that he will be absolutely delighted to have come out ahead of the man that was leading this race. So if he's going to make the 2-stop work, he needs to have as little traffic as possible. And at the minute, Sipos is making it work at the minute. He's ahead of Beresney, and he's got a 6-second gap to the car in front. But Beresney now, though, will think about going for the move down the straight, and that will not help Sipos at all. Beresney pulls alongside down the straight, makes the move. Meanwhile, to Capua, in behind that, side by side with Beresney into the braking zone. The two that were leading the race, and now the new net leader is to Capua. He's cleared both of them down the straight, gets ahead of Beresney and Sipos, and he is essentially the net leader of the United States Grand Prix. Lovely stuff from De Capua, as opportunistic as it comes.
Yeah, that shows how powerful the undercut is as well. De Capua pitted just 1 lap before Danny Beresney and was able to close a 2-second gap that they had on circuit, and that makes me sort of worry for the likes of Otmir and Burmand that they might not be able to get close enough to overtake these guys at the end of the race if they stay out too long here. So it is all still up in the air. De Capua and Beresney still could have the better strategy, provided that the drivers on the mediums mess up their runs, or if they start fighting at this point and allow for them to close up. But that is all circumstantial. Of course, I still am firm in my belief that Barry Burmand is winning this race. But at the moment, Andy, I believe it is up in the air.
It is right up in the air, and we've got a train of 7 cars all in a line together at the helm of this field. We have got a vote now in chat, folks. Get yourselves involved. We always love to hear from you here at PSGL, but before that, here comes Barry Bunneman. He's deciding that now is the moment. I'm going on the attack, and the man from Iran takes the lead here in Kota, gets ahead of Otmir, decided this is the time to hit the pedal at the halfway stage, lap 14 out of 28. Bruneman hits the front as we approach the pit stop phase. So, we've got a vote in chat, folks. Get your votes in. 550 of you have voted so far. Make that 600 of you. Come on, I want to see all 3,500 of you give a vote. Who's going to win? Barry? Jarno? Jake? Danny Beresney? And if it's someone else, leave a comment. Let's see how it's going to pan out. I'm going to make my vote now. I'm voting Jarno. 79% of the chat think he's going to win, as Brendan Lee makes an early pit stop.
Yeah, that is a very early pit stop to see Brendan Lee coming in at the end of lap number 14. He's going to be taking half the race on mediums, half the race on the softs. He's going to have the undercut on the drivers in front, both De Capua and Berejnay and Cyprus as well are going to be clearing him pretty early, as it is Parnell and Zeller. So Brendan Lee, given that everyone else has undercut him, he's now in a whole heap of traffic. And I'd imagine that everyone in front of him is going to be subject to similar levels once they come into the box. But Andy, from this point onwards, I'd imagine with that pit stop from Brendan Lee, the undercut has been triggered and all the drivers around are surely going to box in the next 1 or 2 laps.
Yeah, I wonder if Jarno Opmeer's interested in re-going for the move. Let's have a look at his telemetry. No ERS being used by him. I tell you who is going for the move though. This man, Thomas Ronhart, getting closer and closer and closer. Is he going to lunge up the inside of Jake Benham? No, he almost clips the back of Jake Benham going into turn 12, but he's not quite close enough to go for the move. So as you say, Dan, is Brendan Lee's pit stop going to trigger pit stops from everyone at the helm of this field? Barry, Jarno, Jake, Thomas, Wilson and Nicholas Longay, are they all going to come into the pits this time by, or at least some of them going to come into the pits as Brendan Lee triggers the undercut, triggers the pit stops? Will we see a few teams out in the pit lane? Barry Burman, is he pitting? No, he carries on. The front 3 carry on. The front 4 carry on. There's one. There comes Nicholas Longay into the pits for a pit stop. So the other driver at the tail of the field going for the undercut. Will he be ahead or behind Brendan Lee? That's the question.
Yeah, well, he's got his tyres fitted now. Brendan Lee at the moment is just coming out of the final corner, and he's going to have a nice doses of DRS on Christoph Zeller as Brendan Lee's coming past the pit lane now, and he is firmly ahead of Longay, and Longay's actually come out behind his teammate Liam Parnell. Now if Parnell wants to play this smart and play the team game, he's going to let Longay go through, but if he's going to play the selfish game, he'll be holding up his teammate, much to the annoyance of the French driver.
He's miles ahead of Longay. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of Longay. That's incredible, the difference there between Lee and Longay. I wonder why that is, because I'm pretty sure they were all together in the train. So 3.5 seconds, that is an enormous amount of time that Longay has lost somewhere along the way. Did he change the wing? I'm not too sure he did, but that's a massive amount as we go back to the front on lap 16. Will we see pit stops this time by from any of the front 5? We've now seen Brendan Lee and Nicholas Longay come into the pits, and we're now seeing a move down the straight. Brendan Lee, I believe, has got himself ahead of Zeller, and also Nicholas Longay has got himself ahead of Liam Parnell. So 2 moves from some of the drivers that were in that front group on this lap. Though, are we going to see some pit stops? Let's keep an eye on it as they make their way round the final couple of corners now. We're on board with Jarno Opmeer. Is Barry Burman coming in? Big slide, and that is a call to come in, as is Thomas Ronhart. So 2 more drivers from the front of the field making the call to pit. Your race leader, Barry Burman, into the pit lane now, and this is a big pit stop for the McLaren team, Dan.
Yep, and you've got to assume that the front 3 that have all decided to remain out on circuit, and Timon Shooter and Welch and Van Erven and Carreton as well, they've got to come in at some point here. And I think this is also really going to hurt Jake Benham because, of course, he is stacking with Jarno Opmeer. He cannot pit this lap, or whenever Jarno pits, Jake Benham can't pit on that same lap. And given that these two, I know that they're good friends, they're going to play the team game. So I believe that if Jarno comes in, Jake Benham is going to concede. He's not going to try and fight this one out. It's really going to hurt his race, given how powerful we've seen the undercut be around this circuit. Just look at the gaps between 13th and 14th. Nicholas Longay is 2.2 seconds ahead of Barry Burman.
It's incredible how massive the undercut is. Brendan Lee pitted just 2 laps before Barry Burman. Barry Burman was at the front of the field. Brendan Lee was 5th in the order. Look at the gap now. Look at the gap between them. Brendan Lee's 12.4 off the lead. Barry Burman's 16.8. That means he's 4.4. He's lost 4.4 seconds in 2 laps. 2.2 per lap he's losing by pitting later. That is incredible, the undercut. I've never seen anything like it. That is astonishing, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this circuit is so powerful for the undercut. Hughes coming into the pit lane. Benham and Opmeer both staying out here. They're getting to a dangerous territory where they're going to be 5 or 6 seconds back from the likes of Longay and Burman. Welch and Carreton have both decided to box. I believe Thomas Shooter has also stayed out, as has Matthijs van Erven. So we still have 4 runners out on the medium compound of tyre on circuit as Longay...
There's sorry, Dan. That's Brendan Lee, and this is a very important move. Passing Danny Beresney. Remember, Danny Beresney was leading this race at the start of the Grand Prix on the alternate strategy, but already with 10 laps to go, Brendan Lee's already got to him and passed him. Incredible.
Lee's leading this race now. He's the net leader.
He is, and Brendan Lee, remember folks, going for back-to-back victories. One in Singapore. Has he pulled off a master stroke strategy here? It's certainly giving him plenty of gains at this stage of the race. Will it still be giving him gains come the end when Opmeer and Benin make their stops? But no doubt about it, Brendan Lee has put the boot down and already cleared Danny Beresney, who was our long-time leader at the start.
That being said, though, his tyres are going to be in a terrible condition come the end of this race.
Yep.
Given that he's already been on them, this is his third lap on the set, the soft compound of tyre. I don't believe that includes his out lap, so it is really going to be tricky for him to get to the end and still be competitive. The likes of Longuet, Burman, Ronhar and Hughes, I'd say they're going to be perfectly fine to be going to the end, and they're not going to see major drop-offs, but I think Brendan Lee is.
Well, here's another man coming in. It's Jarno Opmeer then. The man leading this championship, the world champion, coming into the pit lane now. Is today going to be the day he wins the title, or is it going to go on to Brazil? It looks more likely that it's going to go on to Brazil. He's pitted very, very late. He will lose track position, but he's now going to try and make it all back up. He's lost out to Lee, Longuet, Buraman, Ronhar. Even Wilson Hughes has got in front of him. So now the chase begins for Jarno Opmeer. How far up can he win this race from here? That's the question. He's pitted late. Let's see how it's going to work out, Dan. This is going to be a very, very exciting 10 laps or so. Do not go anywhere, folks. All 4,000 of you. Great to have so many of you tuning into the action tonight. It's going to be a cracking finale.
Yeah, 4,000 viewers. Make sure, I think it's a better time than ever, to make sure that you hit that big red button below the video and subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel, because it does not slow down from this point. We've still got the rest of the season to go, and it's going to be incredible as Barry Burman closes to Christoph Zeller. He pulls alongside and he takes P8 on circuit, as does Brendan Lee, moving ahead of Matthijs van Erven into P3.
Ronhar makes the move on Zella as well, so he follows Barry Burman through. So a few moves being made around the racetrack. We're still waiting on Jake Benham making his stop. He's already only 8 seconds ahead of Brendan Lee. Such is the size of the undercut. Brendan Lee only 8 seconds behind Jake Benham after all of that. Incredible. Surely he's in now. He is in the pits now. So now Brendan Lee is fighting Simon Shooter for the lead of the race. Not anymore, he's not, because into the pits comes Simon Shooter. And are we now going to see some tactics from Ferrari? Is Danny Beresney going to be the rear gunner for Brendan Lee? I don't think so. Longuet getting ever closer. Is he going to be going for the dive bomb into turn 1? He is! Very late from Longuet. Lovely stuff. Daniel Ricciardo-esque, licking the stamp and sending it. What a move from Longuet. The Frenchman's up to P2, but he gets a big slide coming out of turn 2. But going through the SE section, the job is done, and the hunt begins for Brendan Lee, who's going for 2 wins in a row, Dan.
Yeah, Nicolas Longuet could be looking to upset this victory for Brendan Lee, who's won the last week in Singapore. He's in great form at the moment. Longuet could be looking to disrupt that. A man who, by the way, has never won in PSGL PC F1. I had to check that stat. Nicolas Longuet hasn't won in PSGL F1. It could be tonight where his deathly streak is finally broken, and he finally steps on the top step of the podium. We'll have to wait and see as he closes within half a second of the Ferrari car on lap number 20 of 28 here.
That is an incredible stat, Dan. That is an astonishing stat. A driver of his quality never standing in the top step. Look at this from Buraman! Up the inside into turn 16. We've just seen Longuet pull a move, and now Buraman's trying one. Look at Beresney trying to fight back round the outside. I don't think he knows, just hit him there. Incredible. Buraman from behind the back of the Ferrari sneaks one up the inside and into the podium places. He's now P3 and can begin the hunt of the 2 L's, Longuet and Lee, who lead this Grand Prix. What a race we're having here as Ronhar now lines up Beresney as well. It's quite clear soft to medium is not working. It's medium to soft you want to do as Ronhar passes Beresney, and that's another position gained. How is the championship leader getting on? Here he is, Jarno Opmeer, P8 at the minute on the freshest tyres of all, beginning the hunt of the leaders. But first he's got Wilson Hughes and 2 drivers on the medium tyres to clear.
Yeah, both Hughes and Otmir have closed by about a second on Beresnay and Capua. So what looked like was working out for them early on in the race really is not going their way at the moment, as Daniele Haddad is our first retirement as he is eliminated from this one. He DNFs in the pit lane, but at the moment you get the feeling that Jarno Otmir is getting a bit tired of sitting behind Wilson Hughes. He's right up to the rear of the McLaren, and now he's opening up the DRS.
And here we have a change of the leadership. Brendan Lee moves aside. Easy stuff for Nicholas Longy, the man who you said has never won in Tier 1. Well, he's leading now with 7 laps to go. Longy hits the front. The Frenchman leads for Red Bull as Jarno Otmir behind that, as you touched on, has got ahead of Wilson Hughes and is into 7th place. The Hunter, Jarno Otmir, making his way up through the field. 6 more to clear, but he's got drivers also on soft tires in front, but he does have 2 laps fresher than Ronhar, 2 laps fresher than Burneman, 4 laps fresher than Lee, and 3 laps fresher than Nicholas Longy. It's all building up to a thrilling finale here in PSGL tonight. Do not go anywhere, folks. Buckle yourselves up, grab some popcorn. We're in for a thrilling finale in round 11 tonight. What a race it's been, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. And surely it's only going to get better from here, because now Barry Borman has entered the fray, and he is within 0.2 of a second off the back of Brendan Lee, who's beginning to feel the weight of his tyres catch up to him. Although it was a superb undercut from the Ferrari driver and winner of last week's Grand Prix, it is not working out in his favour. We'll see what the Iranian driver can do, who is slightly laggy at the moment on the circuit, unfortunately. Hopefully that doesn't cause any issues for any spectacular overtakes we might see as they close up together in towards turn number 11. What can the top 3 do? It is Longy, Lee and Boromand at the moment, your podium, as they close up to each other down this long back straight. Lee closing to the rear of Longy and Boromand getting closer to the Ferrari car, but there's no moves being made at this point in time, and into the braking zone they go. They stay 1, 2 and 3.
They stay 1, 2 and 3. You're absolutely right, Dan. Things getting very, very interesting. Well then, this race has been turned on its head by various timings of the pit stops. Oh, Barry Burneman, has he done Lee up the inside again at turn 16? Another move on a Ferrari at turn 16. One in Beresnay, now one on Lee. Barry Burneman bombing through into 2nd place. Lovely stuff from the Iranian driver. 2 dive bombs into turn 16 from Burneman, and he's now up to 2nd place. Next up, Nicholas Longy. Awesome stuff from him, as Otmir is now up to 6th, and he is cleared Alessio Di Capua somewhere on this lap. So folks, in chat, tell us who's going to win from here. 5 laps to go.
Whoa!
What's going on?
Ronar's going around the outside of Lee. Lee defends to the inside, but Ronar certainly opportunistic, and I think he wanted to go for that move, certainly, and Lee was having none of it. He defended his position very well indeed, but he sacrificed some time to Barry Boromand.
Wow, incredible stuff. Ronhard trying everything to get through. Remember, he's got a 3-second time penalty, so he'll be more desperate than anyone to clear some of this traffic here on lap 23 out of 28 here at the Circuit of the Americas in Texas. It's been a thrilling race. Fantastic to have so many of you tuning in and enjoying the action as Wilson Hughes gets a 3-second time penalty, as does Patrick Saipos. So then, back on board with Ronhard. He tried the outside. Is he going to try the inside? Meanwhile, for the lead of the Grand Prix, Longy in trouble. Burneman breezes past him and takes the lead of the race. Awesome stuff from the McLaren driver into the lead. The man who's 2nd in the championship, who wants to prolong this championship further, is doing everything he needs to do so. He now leads. The man from Iran passes Longy and takes the lead, Dan.
Yeah, Barry Boromand has really come alive in 2022, and he's looking to take the win of this race. He's not won since the first round of the season, so he's looking to stamp that claim and try and get himself back into this championship hunt. His main rival at the moment, Jarno Otmir, sort of stuck at the moment behind Danny Beresnay. They're all in a DRS train, and the overcut strategy, whilst it's allowed for him to get better tyres, it is not helping him in the long run as they all close up towards turn number 1. Once again, Barry Boromand seemingly uncontested here.
Barry Burneman's at the minute in good, really strong position, but we can never write off this man, the World Championship leader, the man that's won 5 of the last 6 races here in PSGL. Jarno Otmir doesn't look like at the minute he's going to win the championship tonight, but he could still win the race and strengthen his grip on the title further. He looks like it's going to go for one more week as the minute, because Barry Burman's doing everything he needs to do at the front of the order. Otmir needs to make some moves now, starting with Danny Beresney. He's just going to bide his time and line up the Hungarian in that Scarlet Ferrari. Coming out of the corner, Otmir with the DRS wide open behind Beresney, using some of his ERS as well, breezes past the Ferrari and moves into the top 5 places. Good move from Otmir. Next up, Thomas Ronhaar, who is a 3-second time penalty.
Neat and tidy for Jarno Otmir. That's what he needed at this point in the race, not to exacerbate these tyres all too much at this point. He's going to have a more difficult time overtaking these drivers in front, as Brendan Lee had a half look at Nicolas Longuet down in towards turn number 15. It didn't quite work out for the Ferrari car, could leave him vulnerable to Thomas Ronhaar, and if all these drivers start fighting, it's going to hinder Jarno Otmir, so it will allow for Barry Burman to stretch his advantage up the road as they're now coming home to complete 4 laps to go. We're on lap number 25 of 28. So it is really getting to the dying stages of this Grand Prix, where everyone is going to be a little bit more on edge, and certainly those tyres are going to be feeling the pressure at the moment. But the top 5, Andy, I'd say, can all win this race from here.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of the comments in chat. David Ulhorn, I totally agree. Regardless of who wins, it's been an awesome race. We have not had to pause at any moment to fill time. It's been a cracker. There's been so much intrigue in the strategy, so much enjoyment, and there's another moment. We've got Louis Welsh facing the wrong way down at turns 1 and 2. He's got going again though, thankfully. No need for a safety car. As Otmir goes round the outside of Thomas Ronhaar into turn 11. You rarely see that. Otmir's trying it though. Keeps it just about on the racetrack, right round the outside of Thomas Ronhaar. What a move that is. Brendan Lee keen to give Ronhaar the toe to make it even more difficult for Jarno Otmir, but he's gone surely get the job done. Brendan Lee moves back to the inside, makes it even harder for Otmir to get the line. Still Ronhaar keeps his foot in, but Jarno Otmir lined it up superbly out of turn 11 and going through turn 13 and 14 gets the job done and moves into P4 and moves ever closer to the front of the field. Now, next up for him, Brendan Lee. Here we are in PSGL. It doesn't get better than this. Two-time F1 Esports World Champions locking horns with 3 laps to go here. What more do you want, folks? It does not get better than this. Nearly 5,000 of you tuning in to watch the action here tonight. It's been absolutely epic. So here we go. Two-time champions racing together down towards turn 1. Is Otmir going for the lunge? He is! From a long way back, sticks it down the inside of Brendan Lee, makes it work. Brendan Lee on the exit of the corner, tries to fight back, but as they get to the SE section, Otmir is far enough in front, holds his place, and is into the podium places. What a battle, what a race between 2 of the stars of F1 Esports.
Yeah, what a driver Jarno Otmir is. That was an incredible dive up the inside of Brendan Lee, and all 5,000 of you are getting to enjoy this. Two-time F1 Esports World Champions locking horns here in just a small little league on F1 2021. It does not get any better than this, but it is one more position that Jarno Otmir needed to make up. He's now back into the top 3, back onto the podium, and with just 2.5 laps to go, he'll be closing and trying to overtake Longuet and Barry Burman as soon as he can.
Okay, folks, 3 laps to go, 2.5 laps to go. One word in chat, please. Brunemand, Longuet, Otmir. Who's going to win? Say it now. Dan, one word, go for it.
Longuet.
I'm going Otmir. I'm going Otmir from here. Let's see what happens. It's going to get very, very exciting. We've now ticked past 5,000 of you. Fantastic, folks. Look at the chat. It's going nuts. Otmir, 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 Otmir. Everyone is saying Otmir. Does anyone have anything else to say? Incredible. We are now moving on to lap 27. Here, 2 laps to go. The penultimate lap. Is Otmir going to do to Longuet what he did to Lee down to turn 1? He's going to switch to the inside. Longuet seen it coming. Has to go round the outside instead. Longuet covers it off superbly. Awesome stuff from the Frenchman to fend off Jarno Otmir. Clever driving from him. He saw what he did to Brendan Lee on the previous lap, covered off the inside and made it work brilliantly. Awesome defending from Longuet, but how much longer, Dan? Can he keep it up? What about down to turn 12?
I don't believe he's going to be ahead for much longer, and it's a great point by Dylan Warren in chat that this was the top 3 in the Esports USA race. So this is really history repeating itself like a ripple. On lap number 27 of 28, Jarno Opmeer has Nicholas Longe in his crosshairs. His target is sighted. He's using up the battery to close down this back straight, but he just can't get close enough. Can he possibly go for a lurching dive into turn number 12? It looks like it as he goes trying to go around the outside. Could try and make a switchback move here on the French driver. He covers off the inside. There goes Opmeer to the inside line. Contact. They swap paint and bang wheels. But it's Jarno Opmeer to get ahead of Nicholas Longe into turn number 15. He stamped his approval and he takes P2.
Oh, absolutely incredible. The elbows had to come out there from Opmeer. Longe won't be happy about it. They trade paint through 14 and 15. Absolutely incredible. We are now moving on to the final lap of this Grand Prix. What a race we have witnessed here in PSGL tonight. We're up at 5,500 of you. Incredible stuff here tonight. Opmeer will not win the championship, but can he win the race? Down towards turn 1. Thought about the lunge. Thinks better of it. He knows it's all about lining this up out of turn 11. And down towards turn 12, Barry Bouremand pulled the pin, pitted earlier than the Mercedes driver, went for the undercut, but slowly but surely, Jarno Opmeer, despite the 2-second delta per lap on the undercut, has slowly whittled the gap down, has reeled in the Iranian driver, and you can see him struggling for grip, sliding like crazy all over the SE section, and Opmeer is now like a lion, prowling his prey, ready to pounce as they make their way through turn 11, and now we will see the DRS open. You can see the ERS being used by Jarno Opmeer, the reigning champion, closing in on Barry Bouremand. This is going to be easy. He breezes past him down the straight. Can Barry fight back? He's going to try maybe down the inside, round the outside tries Barry Bouremand. He can't quite do it, and Opmeer's made it work. He pitted later, and in the end, he always finds the answer. He's found the answer again, and it's going to be a 6th win in 7 races here in PSGL. Quite phenomenal form from Jarno Opmeer as he now negotiates turn 17 and turn 18. It's been a simply sensational performance. There will be no championship today. He couldn't quite outscore Barry Bouremand by 11 points. The Iranian has made him wait for one more week, but round the final corner, Jarno Opmeer crosses the line, wins the United States Grand Prix here in Kota. Barry Bouremand second, Nicholas Longe third. What a race, Danfield.
What a driver, what a star Jarno Opmeer is to overtake Barry Bouremand on the last lap. What a charge through the field. Just a few laps before all of this kicked off, he was sitting in 7th position, but he picked them all off one by one, and he has reaped the rewards here. I can see all of the love for Jarno Opmeer in the chats. You know what, just get your W's in right now, because that was a sensational battle right towards the end, and I feel privileged and honoured to have been commentating this one here. I'm seeing a lot of Sues as well. Everyone is loving this. I think a lot of us today, Andy, are Team Pogmere.
Well, I'm not team anyone, but what I will say is I am Team PSGL, and what we've witnessed tonight was a fantastic race for PSGL. Fantastic to see so many people tuning in for this race tonight, and it was an absolute classic. It was an epic from start to finish. We had no idea who was going to win until the very end, and PSGL is the winner tonight, along with the man on your screens now, Jarno Opmeer. What a fantastic race we have witnessed. What a battle between so many top drivers, but in the end, Opmeer got the strategy right, waited to the final lap, and pounced on Barry Bouremand to make it 6 wins in his last 7. Only Brendan Lee, a fellow 2-time esports champion, could halt that streak last time out in Singapore. What a race. Well done to Jarno Opmeer. He is the victor from Barry Bouremand in 2nd. Nicholas Longe coming through from 13th on the grid to finish 3rd. A big congrats to him. Brendan Lee finishes 4th from P11 with Jake Benham in 5th, perhaps pitting a little bit too late. Danny Beresney was 6th. Thomas Ronhar 7th, and Wilson Hughes comes home in 8th after some penalties. Alessio Di Capo was 9th, and Alvaro Canaton, the man who started 19th, made up all those positions to finish with a solitary point in 10th. Samuel Bean was next, Dario Yamula was 12th, Christoph Zella was 13th, Simon Schutter, Liam Parnell 15th, Shanaka Clay, Patrick Saipos, Louis Welsh, Matthias Van Erven, and only one retirement, Dan Yeli Haddad. Wow, what a race. That was absolutely sensational, Dan. I'm just so pleased for PSGL, so pleased for Jarno Opmeer, the victor, and for everyone watching, because what we witnessed there was just vintage league racing, classic stuff. It was brilliant. This is the content that people come to see, and it was a brilliant Grand Prix.
It was a win for Jarno, a win for PSGL, and a win for league racing.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm so pleased to be able to commentate over. Races like that make this all worth it. It's such it is a very difficult and demanding job for the pair of us, Andy. But races like that mean the world, and I go as far as to say that's race of the season.
Yeah.
That was possibly the best Grand Prix I've ever commentated on, and it was a pleasure and an honor, and it was wonderful throughout.
It was brilliant, and I hope everyone else watching enjoyed it, because sometimes we say that races are good because there's a lot of controversy, there's a few crashes, a bit of drama with safety cars. That had none of that. That was just a straight race from lights to flag, no safety cars, no yellow flags, no silly manoeuvres from any driver to create drama, pure racing and strategy. It was a thrill from start to finish, excitement on every lap on so many levels, an absolute classic. And folks, stay there, because I'm hoping to hear from our race victor and maybe some of the guys on the podium. We'll maybe see if they're in there. Dan, are they in there yet? I've not had the chance to look.
I'm having a quick look here. None of them are in the waiting room yet, but I'm gonna get into the chat right now, in the Discord chat, just to let them know that they need to get in here. We need to hear their opinions on this race.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We do. I've lost my voice. It's gone. We've got no water left, folks. No water left. It was an absolute cracker. An absolute cracker. Chat, thank you very much for tuning in, folks. Thank you so much. It's been an absolutely epic race. We've really enjoyed your comments and your thoughts on the race. But for one last time, I'm going to have to ask you a question. But I think I know what the answer is going to be from the majority. Driver of the day. Dan, who are you going for?
I think there's one option. There is one option, and it's got to be Wilson Houston, and I'm joking. It's Jarno Opmeer. Of course it's Jarno Opmeer. What a race from the Dutchman to come through the field like that and be able to overtake all these guys that are top esports talents. The move on Longue, I'm seeing a lot of people questioning it, and the stewards might have a look at it. But I'd say it's hard racing. You know, contact will happen, and I think it was all fair, if I'm being completely honest. And I think I don't see a reason why Jarno should lose that win.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the stewards have to say on it. I'm just glad I'm not a steward and I don't have to have an opinion on it. It was certainly hard racing, no doubt about that, Dan. You've gone for Opmeer. We like to have something different between us in commentary. Opmeer was very good today, and it's hard not to go him. But just for the sake of balance, I think Nicholas Longue deserves a big mention. Came from 13th to the podium, so hats off to him. I'll give him driver of the day, but I think we're going to let the chat decide. I think we'll let them decide. I mean, so many people are going for Jarno Opmeer. Nemesis has gone for Brendan Lee. Jarno absolutely, says Leonardo. Goatmeer in chat. I'm hearing from a lot of people. Nicholas Longue, someone agrees with me. Oh, finally, someone agrees with me. Incredible. But yeah, wow, what a race. Denver says, commentator, what a race. Win, what a race. You're right, mate. It was an absolute cracker. What a Grand Prix. The majority of people going for Jarno Opmeer for driver of the day. And I can't argue with you guys. He was absolutely sensational today. I'm going to jump onto the interview screen, and hopefully we'll get some of those guys in for interview. Is there anyone in there yet? Nobody at the minute in the waiting room. So while we are in the waiting room, folks, I'm just going to go to a quick word with our sponsor, and hopefully we'll have some of the drivers when we come back.
Okay.
was a quick word from. Oh, sorry, I got the interview. Apologies. Yeah, quick word from Grid Rival there, our sponsor. Be sure to check out Grid Rival, folks. Jump on there and join up in the fantasy. But I'm looking to see. Unfortunately, we've got nobody in the waiting room at the minute. But stay tuned, folks. We can hang in, and hopefully, pretty soon, we will get someone in there. There's a few really nice comments in chat from the commentary. Thanks very much, guys. We really appreciate that. Those nice comments. But you know, we want to save it for the drivers, folks. The drivers have been incredible today. They give us the excitement to go and commentate and enjoy the action. So they were absolutely epic. Jarno Opmeer, folks, I can tell you, is now in the waiting room, and we can hear from him right now. Let's drag him in and have a word with Jarno Opmeer. 6th win in 7 races in PSGL. Couldn't quite be 7 in a row because what Brendan managed last week in Singapore. But Jarno, congratulations on the victory. Ever closer to the title. It wasn't quite to be tonight because Barry, as we've seen so often this season, has ran you close. Talk us through that race, because for us, it was probably the race of the season. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of different strategies, I think, made it interesting. A lot of people going very early and then falling off in the end. And then I wanted to go last and try to have better tires in the end. But then I had to overtake like 8 or 9 cars, so that made it a bit tougher. But yeah, in the end, it worked. So.
And how are you feeling after that pit stop? Because obviously, I mean, we weren't aware in commentary just how massive the undercut was going to be. It was working out at around 2.5 seconds a lap, about 2.2, I think it was per lap. Some of the drivers were making up. So, was there ever a moment you felt after your pit stop that you perhaps left it too late, or were you always confident that you were going to be there come the end?
Yeah, of course, you always catch back up because, you know, the bigger the undercut, usually the bigger the gain you're going to have in the end.
Yeah.
If you do stay out. Not always the case, but this time it was like that, and I knew that was gonna happen. So I was confident I was gonna catch back up, but then you still need to pass other cars, of course. So that made it the hard part of this race.
Yeah, and what about your battle with Longy in particular? You had to get the elbows out there. It was pretty interesting stuff going through turns 13 and 14, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't very impressed with defending a few times, but yeah, I think it was a bit over the limit, but it is what it is. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose all that matters is that you got the job done. Jarno, still not quite able to get that title wrapped up. It goes on for another week. I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's wrapped up, or is it just a case of it's never over till it's over? How do you feel about the championship?
Yeah, I mean, it's never over until it's theoretically not possible anymore. But of course, some very weird things have to happen. If I'm going to lose that many points, I don't think I've ever scored so little points in 3 races. So I just have to wait and see. I think next week there's a lot of a bigger chance that I will wrap it up. So we'll have to wait for them.
Yeah, well, we had so many viewers in chat on PSGL tonight, so I think they were all anticipating the title party tonight, but the champagne, unfortunately, back on ice for another week. We'll see if you end up wrapping it up next week. Congratulations on the victory. Dan, any questions for our race winner tonight?
I think you've covered all the bases in terms of the questions, but I'd like to congratulate you on such an incredible win. It was such a fun race to commentate over, and I'm really hoping that we get to see more races like that for the rest of the season. So Jarno Opmeer, I think you want to take a bow here.
Thank you.
Congrats, Jarno. We're not going to keep you for too long. We'll let you get back to your stream, and yeah, congrats on the victory. And who knows, maybe next week you'll be celebrating a championship when you join us for a chat.
I hope so.
See you later, Jarno. See you later. Thanks for joining us. So that was Jarno Opmeer joining us after the victory tonight. Not quite enough to seal the title, but boy oh boy, Dan, gave us plenty of excitement and enjoyment out there tonight. A really exciting race. And let's just try and wrap it all up, Dan. I mean, first of all, a big thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. I mean, that must be a record. We're up at 5.7, nearly 6,000 of you tuning in for that tonight. I mean, that's incredible viewership. Well done, folks.
5.7 thousand. really is almost unheard of, at least from this season's point of view. I believe we've typically been around about the 2,500 mark, possibly 3,000, and to hit 5.7 today is really special, and it is mental that both you and I, Andy, get to be a part of this, and it is something that I do hold dear to my heart, and something that I really do look forward to every week. And we still got the rest of the season, so hopefully we can see more numbers like that, more loving fans in the live chat as well. I'm really loving the support that we've been getting in here, just for our commentary, but also just for PSGL as well, and league racing on the whole. It's so great that there's such a loving fan base that can all support each other and tune in every Wednesday evening for hellacious rides.
Yeah, there's been a lot of winners tonight. PSGL, Jarno Opmeer and League Racing. It's been a ball, folks. Be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the PSGL channel, and we can do it all again next week as we head to round 12 of the championship. Will it be the race that Jarno wraps up the PSGL title? Leave a like, subscribe, tune in next Wednesday, 7 PM, and you can find out. It's been a pleasure, folks. We hope you've enjoyed it. We sure have. I've been Ginger Andy. He's been Dan Field. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
It's time.